Let's roll. Mr. Curry, are we live? All right. Welcome to the April 29th meeting of the budget workshops for the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a quorum present with council members Arnold, Gay, and McKenzie. And so I will call the meeting to order at 6:42 p.m. And I believe that we are going to start our conversation with a discussion of the Recreation Administration. Let me pull that up. You need a moment, Councilmember? You sure? All right. Well, we will start with questions on page 1.
Michelle, I noticed that you're asking for, there's a little bit less in the salary area. Is there, is that, you were at the amended budget, I guess for, well, the budget, I keep saying amended budget, but the actual budget we went with is 294, and I guess 300,000 in that line 515010 section, and it's only a reduction of about 2,000, but I was just wondering how that. Good evening.
Oh, we don't have to hold it. Thank y'all. I think the last ones we had to hold before. Those numbers are put in, I think, by HR, so I'm not quite sure. There's only 3 of us in this budget.
Just wanted to make sure you weren't, cutting yourself out of 2,000. All right.
All right. Moving on to page 2.
Line 526193. Recreation does you guys do quite a bit of citywide events, and are we, I guess for this, there was only 66,700 budgeted in this year, and we're at 63,585. Are you guys going to be okay? I know we still have Juneteenth and some other things going on before this year's over.
Yes, so we do typically get the Fulton County Arts Grant.
Okay.
That gets added to that. It goes to general fund. And no, we did a reduction last year of 10%. So if you look at 2024, it was right at 154, and that was adding Juneteenth. So we've added some, so 170 is what we currently, and I even put in the full amount. Instead of counting, I would do 10 for Fulton County Arts and 10 for whatever we're doing. I put the full amount for the budget so that if we got reimbursed for it, it would be in there. So that total amount was, if you look at the list breakdown of what we've spent for those all activities that we're planning.
Additional questions on page 2? Okay. want us to wait? All right. Questions on the transaction report?
I have one question for on page 2 of 3 for the line that has Santa is coming to town. Is that for both Gabi and downtown, or just? I know last year we did a Santa thing on Gabi Road, but it was after the fact. So
Santa coming to town is where the fire truck rides.
I got you.
To we hit all 4.
I see. So
wards.
the light up is the one that we did on Gabi, and we did downtown. Okay, all right.
And I did add, if you look at the first item for light up, I did do Main Street and Godby Road.
Awesome.
I put 2 at the $5,000.
Love it. Thank you.
And we met today also with Jerisha.
Okay.
So we wanted to follow up and get those ideas for next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the transaction report? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. Recreational programs? Questions on page 1?
Mary, you didn't ask us about, you said the transaction report, but I don't remember you saying asking if there are any questions on the rest of the documentation in the packet.
If you have some, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, Michelle, this, on your exhibit F1 with the vehicles, we have a vehicle from 2008 that was, is it, okay, is it in driving, Lance? Okay, it is the Econoline wagon, the white van.
No, that one was sold. That wagon's. This is 2008.
Okay, it's not showing, it's just showing that okay. Yeah, it only has, it's saying the current mileage is 60. Okay. Oh, Michelle doesn't have her mic on?
Oh, it's not on. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, my apologies. So we're talking about the 2008 Ford Econo white van.
Yes, ma'am.
So 996. Oh, okay, so
Is it,
yes.
it's still in inventory? Okay, so it hasn't been sold. But is it running? That's what I was, so I was just kind of just had a question about that. I know you didn't put any for a replacement or anything.
No, we have a new van coming. I just spoke to
In
Ford
this
that-
budget year?
Yes.
Okay.
This current budget.
All right, that's all.
yes.
Was just checking.
Yeah, we're
on.
going to be using this vehicle for just basically transport
From
cargo.
I was
No-
going to say.
no people, just
From one
cargo.
side of the street to the other
Yes,
side of the street.
basically.
That's about all.
Yes.
You can't go up the block. Okay, thank you.
All right, on to recreation programs. Questions on page 1? moving on to page 2.
Hey, can you tell me where in your budget
Councilmember, microphone.
is there anywhere in what page did you put any new amenities in the parks? Is that anywhere specific in this?
Not in programs and facilities under capital.
That's what it'll be on the capital.
Yeah.
We haven't got there yet, right?
I don't, yes, no,
Okay, thank you.
that's all under facilities, which is the next budget.
Okay.
On that,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I
I
apologize.
didn't have it, Councilman Gay, I didn't have my microphone on. So for facilities is where that capital improvements will be, so anybody listening.
All right, thank you.
In regard to the parks themselves, do you have funding in your budget in regard to upkeep of the parks?
So I put in, if you look for a line item, I put in for athletic, like the tennis courts, things that we maintain, but just general maintenance. If we pay for, we take out of recreational supplies, nothing specific for parks. So we don't have a parks per se maintenance line.
And how much is set for recreational maintenance? I mean, is it are we doing enough in regard to general park maintenance, I guess is the question.
So we get calls for restroom repairs, we get calls for anything that's damaged at the parks. Trees being cut down, so I think in the past it's been in both our budget and in it was Parks and Grounds, Buildings and Grounds. So I think their line item's been taken out. I add just parks on what we're planning on seeing, whether it's the pavilion repairs to tennis courts, if we do field maintenance, mini pitch, anything that's sport athletic that I know that would need to be done, we've done. But anything just general maintenance, no.
Yeah, Michelle, that's, I'm on page 1, 52, 57, 50. So I do see, that the line for parks and there's $5,000, but is that, if you're still being billed for things that are happening, I mean, either one of you all can answer. I just kind of want to understand what's going on with
So
that.
that line item I put in for programming in the parks, like for the soccer program, if there's anything maintenance wise, if we need a new goal or it's recreational supplies, but it's designated for programming.
Okay.
Basketball, tennis courts. So those are the items that I have planned on for constant repairs.
Okay.
Some of the things, like for the playground, we will pay for, but in the past, Lance and I were talking about this today, is that looking at somebody, making sure that the playgrounds are being serviced and make sure that there's a certified playground inspector. We've never had that in our budget. That was always in Buildings and Grounds, which was Parks and Grounds.
Right,
So-
and so is there a position included in this budget for the playground inspector?
It's typically been somebody out of Parks and Grounds, that too. So yeah.
Because I don't believe we didn't have anything like that when we went over that budget, so we still are at we still don't have a,
Yeah, I've been paying for somebody to come in to inspect them, but it wasn't something that we did prior.
but it is something that we
We
need.
need to do.
We need to have somebody that is specifically checking out our parks, our equipment and everything, because anything can happen. So I don't know, I have a concern with that, and I know we didn't put that in the budget for Buildings and Grounds, but do we have someone that is going to be assigned, or can we bring someone on to have them assigned to making sure that our park playground facilities, we've got new playground being put in Phillips Park, and the same, and even when things are new, sometimes you still got it. Things that have been there for a long time, you want to make sure that they're safe, but then things that are new, as we're working through that. So I just think that would be something for us to really consider as we move forward.
Michelle, question about on parks. Now the park rangers, they're no longer under you guys. They're under Public Works, right?
Correct, park attendants are under buildings and grounds.
I'm still concerned about the performance and making sure that they're, keeping their eyes peeled and whatnot. But,
Can you turn your microphone on?
but safety of the equipment and checking this new equipment is important. And I mean, everybody that has a duty in this city has, and other duties as required. So we want to make sure we keep an eye on things and vandalism and whatever else have you. But overall, I guess when we get to public works,
We've already done public works.
we
Yeah.
We already did public
right.
works.
That's why I was mentioning it now, because when we were in Public Works, that wasn't mentioned. I think there's still a little,
Yeah.
it's not clear in terms of
Yeah, we're
who
happy-
does
like I
what
said,
in certain areas.
Lance and I, we would have part of a budget, they would have part of a budget, and at one point in time in the budget, the line item was just taken out. So, just wanna make sure whoever, that we can meet the needs of whatever those parks are. We're happy to do that, but we wanna make sure whoever's overseeing. And it's hard for us that aren't in the parks regularly, but happy to, if they say we need to send somebody out there, we can do that if the budget's in us.
And so I think before it was split during sort of high season, the park rangers were with you, and then during the rest of the time, they were over in buildings and grounds. Is that right?
Correct.
Well, you all had the park rangers for years in the past.
It went back and forth.
So I mean, you're at the parks every day now. How do they compare to when they were in your department?
What, the park attendants? They're very
They're doing
attentive. Yeah, no, I mean, very attentive. I spoke to him this weekend when we did it opening day and had a conversation. It didn't really matter who was overseeing. It's just hard for us that don't have vehicles for them to be out there and to pick up trash, because that's part of that division, sanitation, it's all in one. It was easier. And then they are out there every day to see what the needs are, buildings and grounds. So as far as money-wise, I mean, not a problem. We just want to make sure we adequately support what the needs are to maintain.
Well, I mean, we can't give every single person a vehicle.
No, I understand. But we only have two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, this is where those UTVs come in, Dr. E, where if that's an affordable option, where giving someone a whole full-size vehicle. If you got a park, if you're assigned to this park or that park, those vehicles are going to come in handy, and they're cheaper than buying individual ones. So, all right. I mean, we're expanding some of we got part-timers, we got 8 part-timers, the 4 code enforcement ambassadors, the 4 sanitation ambassadors, park rangers. So we got 2 of those vehicles. We need to get, probably 4 or 5 more, I'd imagine, as opposed to, you can get 5 of those vehicles for the price of 1 pickup truck at $10,000 each, brand new. They're reliable. We've been using them for years. Our golf course uses those same vehicles. They got a repair shop. They've been repairing them for years. And so we need. I mean, we got all these people. We want them out working. We don't have vehicles for them all. We need to put some more of those things in the budget probably if we're gonna get our money's worth out of them. So
We have 2 in the works. So we need to add more.
maybe we look at we got 2 used ones and they do pretty good.
And then 2
We're gonna
new
wear
ones.
those out, but
Yeah.
then we got 2 new
2
ones.
new ones, yeah.
But maybe if you think we need at least 4, I mean, we got 8 ambassadors and 2 vehicles, and if we got park rangers, you're saying there's some park rangers that don't have transportation?
I don't know. That's not under my purview. So
Okay, I thought I was hearing that
No.
they need transportation to get to.
no, what I was saying is that recreation didn't have vehicles for the park attendants. One of the reasons why they went back
Gotcha.
is that it made sense that
Gotcha.
they were working weekends or whatever, that why we're not.
Well, if you didn't have vehicles, I'm assuming Public Works doesn't have extra vehicles just for or enough of them.
There's vehicles for them on the weekends,
Okay.
to use. Yeah.
Well, whatever you think, I think we need to look at if you get some extra ones, if you think you're gonna need them, maybe do an assessment. So before we put out for those 2, maybe you need 4,
Okay.
My concern is still, again, I'm still on repair and maintenance, that section, because I see where in line 52, 57, 30 again in this section that, you know, right now, this year, $16,760.50 has been expended in that area, but there's nothing budgeted for this upcoming year. So what's gonna, all we have in this whole entire repair and maintenance category is $6,000. I see that you asked for 28,555. What's gonna happen in this category? Should we just expect to go over budget, or is there a plan for line 57, 50, 52, 57, 30? That's kind of still where, because I mean, we definitely need to have adequate money budgeted for repair and maintenance.
Okay, so for the R&M DP equipment, the line
Yes.
item that you're talking, that's all IT. That's
Oh,
that's-
so that
that's-
one,
that's- that
okay,
one's-
so that's IT.
That's all been moved to IT.
Okay, okay.
And I think that's all with this whole entire budget, everything that was DP, which is email, Memcast. Mr. Hicks is here if I'm correct. That's been all
Okay.
moved. But parks in general, I just put $5,000.
Oh, I
in just for-
understand.
yeah, yeah,
I
so-
got that because we haven't spent any money this year, so I was just kind of, so that's what that is.
Like for this year, we put in money to repair the pavilions at Barrett Park. So
Okay,
anything that I would see that needed to be done, I would budget for it. It would be not capital, but something that would be a
something
major
in a different
repair.
category.
Like the tennis courts I put in to do, we did 2 years worth. We did Barrett and then, and Phillips, and then we did Zup
Zup,
this year.
right.
So try to break it up, and plan those for that were, you know, sports or some major, but just general maintenance from the parks has been coming from recreational supplies facilities, not under a park line. And I have not been putting money dedicated for the parks.
Recreational supplies and facilities.
Yeah, that's on page 2,
That's on 2.
Councilman.
Yeah, but out of facilities. We're in programs now, but in facilities,
Oh, in
it's
facilities.
all of
That's what I
our
was
general
wondering.
facilities. So programs is typically just the programs that we're doing, what kind of support that we would have, in parks being tennis or soccer or whatever. So those would be the park line
I have a
items.
question on that line.
Okay.
For grounds?
Mhm.
No, for parks. Phillips Park, all the pavilions need pressure washing and maybe spruced up. I don't see you have any money in the line item.
Well, so this is programs, so that would, if we were gonna put something, it would be in facilities, because those would be considered facilities. And so, I put,
So I have a really quick
I
question
have
about.
pavilion repairs for Phillips and Zup in facilities.
About programs. By any chance, did we remember to include the drone soccer program inside?
So I
It
don't
was
know what
20.
that cost is.
It was $20,000. Actually, it was 18,000. And I didn't know whether or not if it was going to be in contracted services or inside of
So
instructor and official.
Yeah, I would have put that in drone, but I wasn't part of the contract, so I wasn't quite sure, so we need to.
18.
I thought that was a community enhancement, so that would still fall in your budget, even though that was under community enhancements.
It's
The
a
drone
it's a
pro-
pro.
The
It's a
drone program.
contract, and if it was being done through rec, it would be something I would
Okay.
plan for. And that's 30, correct?
I think it was 20. Yeah, it was less than 20. So 20 should be more than enough.
It would be under contractual services. Oh, wait.
So then so if we have a contractual service that's being run out of one of the recreation centers, it needs to go under your budget?
That's typically what I would do.
Okay.
I would ask for the contract, if I could be included in on it so that I can plan for, what to add to, for the budget.
Okay,
And
so,
sometimes I'll add other programming. I don't think I did that this year, just in case, like a $30,000 in case we bring in something new on a 75-25, because we're still paying, it's still coming out of the account,
Right.
even though we're getting 25% from it.
okay, because we have the garden and the technology program at Brady that I'd like to have $50,000 on that, for that project.
That's total for both of them?
Total, yeah, right, right, 50,000 for the, for both the garden and the technology.
And if it wasn't budgeted, I would just go back and ask
Okay,
for, you know.
okay.
If
I'm
that
glad
was
I
the
talked
ask
to
of
you about
y'all,
that.
then I would come back
You
and
say if
present.
it's not
Yeah,
budgeted.
yeah,
I thought that these are budgeted amounts. I thought they were coming out of community enhancement.
Right,
It's
that's
just
what
that
I
she
thought.
was billing it for you.
So the drone soccer community enhancement part was for the equipment itself, and the equipment is already here. Now the contract part is for the program of training the individuals on utilization and the certification portion of them getting the FAA certification.
And that's the same thing
Yeah.
with the technology and the garden project. The supplies for the program are in a different budget.
I like some clarification.
Me too.
Both of their projects, I thought were their community enhancement projects. I thought you just said you would prefer that they send the project through you, but it's a budget item out of their community enhancement. No.
But if we have to maintain the contract, I'd have to budget for it if it's recreation. That's,
But that then adds, okay, well then, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Mine was a part of my community enhancements this year to get this current fiscal year to get the equipment, but to maintain the training and the continuous of the programming on how the young people learn how to utilize those drones and to get their FAA certification is being transferred to the recreation department.
So I have a boxing initiative, right? So based on what Councilwoman Arnold just said, that comes out of your budget? It's programming.
that's fine. So they are starting it in the community enhancement, and if you want to continue that for next year, then we would need to plan for it. So these list of items, when I run my report, are all programs that have brought either money or that we've done, and I just go back and add them in for the budget.
Roger, I think every community enhancement, every one that we have, it's budgeted in community enhancement to get it up and going. But every community enhancement project is housed under some department at some point in time. So once it's up, you budget it to get it up and going. If you budgeted $50,000 to get XYZ up and going, okay, it's up and going. Now it's got to be housed somewhere to maintain it and upkeep it, either in Parks and Rec or Public Works, or so and so has it, or so that way it has a home somewhere where the support crew is this department, or maybe it's a combination of two. But they all go somewhere, but they're not, and they have to fund the annual upkeep and just incorporate that into the budget. You do the first year and you see how the upkeep looks. So then that becomes a solid part of the budget to keep what you got, what you've made going.
Okay.
So Michelle, I will, we'll work together on that contract, but I do have the contract right now, but I'll let you look over it and finalize it.
Additional questions? Because we kind of jumped around a little bit. But any questions on the transaction report?
On the okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask on the subscription and
page?
publications. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on page. Wait a minute. 3 of 6. So those are not the items that are moving to IT. It's
No,
okay.
so, yeah.
Okay.
So these are things that we purchase for us to use. Canva, actually the city's using, as an entity, is using the Recreation's Canva business license.
Oh.
iClass Pro is the website. It's what we maintain to take our registration.
Yeah, I remember that.
Lobster League is what is used for the basketball brackets. Recreation website, Squarespace is who's we're paying for our website. And then the Zoom, we do a professional. And then the Amelia registration is a new program that I'm looking at. iClass is fabulous, but it's not really good for our pavilion rentals. We need something that's a little better for rentals. So it's a little more expensive. iClass is a super inexpensive registration. It's like $169 a month.
Wow.
This is going to set up, and it's a better user friendly.
Okay.
iClass is it's not as user friendly.
Gotcha.
So this is like a little upgrade. We're going to try it with the pavilions and maybe move the whole registration to that.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned the thing about the Canva, because I didn't realize that there was a professional Canva. I thought we saw it on somebody else's budget. Did we not? Okay, maybe I'm.
It's not much. It's
Okay.
like, I think it's $150 a year
Okay.
or something very expensive.
All right. Thank you.
A couple of questions, Michelle. What is Peacemakers Spring and Summer? What are those programs?
So those are programs that we've partnered with on doing spring break camp.
Okay.
And then they also help us with some activities. I don't know if you remember, Shaquille O'Neal was supposed to come and give free computers, and we didn't have enough
remember.
kids.
I
So
remember that.
it's a self-awareness, how to deal with interactions, bullying. It's a program set up that our day camps are doing from 2 to 6,
Okay.
and they're having instructors out there. And we were working towards hopefully an after-school program with them in the future.
Okay, so it's a day camp. All right. Okay, I remember that now.
Yeah.
I go into the parks and rec centers, and one of the things I noticed, which is a good thing, you all have some great looking dynamic flyers. So my question is, who's making your flyers? Is that made in-house? Is that with Canva, or is there a designated person that's handling that for you all?
So like you and I talked, different rec leaders were doing them. We tried to keep it consistent with Canva. We've been working with communications for about a year or so on trying to make it be a good branding. So now we're going to try to go directly through communications, and they do a great job on it.
So the ones I'm seeing, you mentioned you had 1 or 2 people that did yours in your department.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're gonna have communications do them all? Is that the plan?
Correct. And we do have OTL helps us with some of the Juneteenth and some of the citywide events that are free that they can help us with, and they do a fantastic job too. But yeah.
Do you all have a Canva account? Okay, is that license shareable if other folks need it?
They use one login.
So how do we get a license like we have, our legislative assistants who may need to put something together? So how do we share those
So I
licenses?
think currently Keep College Park Beautiful is using it. Communications, I'm not sure if they moved to something different. And then recreation, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. And they just use our user.
Right. Can you send us a license?
Well, it's just a user login.
Okay, will you send us that so our staff can use the Canva without, I don't want anyone to buy a separate Canva subscription if we already got one.
Yeah, I think communications has been handling doing all the flyers for us currently. So I will.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you have the Canva license.
they have it too. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean they use our user.
Well, let's make sure all of our staff have it on our side of the hall. Because we do a lot of flyers too. I don't want to farm that out if we got Canva's the top platform, right?
I'm not a communications expert. It's just what we've used.
Well,
It
looks
works
pretty
well.
good.
It works well, but some of the stuff.
I've been
Alright.
paying my own Canvas subscription
And I
out of
think that's
pocket,
what a lot of people have been
yeah.
doing.
Well, this is the kind of
It's good to
overlap.
know,
So
yeah.
there's no need in, you need to cancel that if we got a license. Yeah.
I'll pay for it on my phone.
Yeah. Well, this is why we asked the questions, to see what we have over there that we could share at no additional cost, right? All right. Save some money.
Any other questions on the transaction report?
see, you got storage container for community computer room. Is that like a shipping container or just storage?
It's just
boxes?
something to lock it up. We were looking at laptops so that if another activity
I
for
got you.
summer camp came in, just a lockbox Mr. Hicks had recommended
Yeah,
to
right,
secure
right.
them.
Got it.
Or to move them, you know.
Okay.
I have a question on 7080,
Okay.
page 46. I thought we had talked about upgrading our Christmas decoration.
So, Mr. Richardson, I've been working on that. So he's got most of the Christmas budget in his,
Does he?
yes.
Okay.
I do put some in so that we've got some more upgrades we want to do. So
Okay.
so I'll be coming to y'all for approval of that.
Okay.
Looking at a new Christmas tree, hopefully on
Yeah.
the south side.
Yeah. Okay.
Additional questions on the transaction report?
Hey, before we go to the additional questions, Ms. Johnson, can we go back to on the transition? Can you tell me what the soccer expense is, if any? The
So
soccer field. I see a lot of sports. I don't see the soccer.
should have listed.
With what's his name? What's the guy's
All
name?
right. Well,
Yeah.
so yeah, this year we did the bleachers. So we did tip and rolls for the bleachers. So that may be out of facilities.
Well, I'm saying
Or grounds.
programming. Don't we have a programming relationship with them, like a 70-30?
75-25. Yeah, they're paying us the 25%.
Is that in his ledger?
Well, so for him, he's collecting and they're giving us the check for it.
I get that, but my question is, are we putting all shared sports revenue in this?
Oh, and for the recreational supplies,
Not supplies. Where do we put that at?
just goes to general fund. Yeah.
So there's a line item in here for.
Yeah, so, but it wouldn't, so general fund items, so when I break down the contractual, because the contract says they're gonna collect and pay, they give us a list and we just put it into general fund, so I wouldn't pay anything out to them.
So not just soccer, but all of our contractual recreation programs, all of the percentage the city get goes into a general fund line item?
This contractual shows what we're paying out, so, if we collect 100%, I've got to
Can
pay
you-
them 75%, and that's what these numbers are.
I'm sorry for being late, but can you tell me what that line item is for all revenue, for all programs?
I don't have the revenue side, so Terry will have to,
I can pull that information for you.
but I did send Terry a report, last
You
week.
used to give us a breakdown of
Revenue?
from different programs, like what's that, man? What's that? Kids
Kids gym.
Kids gym. It was, you used to give us a list of.
This is what we pay out to them.
This is what we pay to them.
Yeah, this is, I'm accounting for what we're gonna have to put out. So these are these amounts are either 75% or the cost of depending on what the program is. Like I would put in for the garden, the full amount.
So these are expenses. Of,
Correct,
So-
correct.
So what we get, he got to get back with us.
Right.
Well, now I can give you, I ran a report for him. We're gonna probably break $1 million on revenue
That's what
for
I'm saying.
for recreation this year.
For
Haven't
all
been-
programs
Mhm.
that we contract with public-private.
Or what we do,
No, I don't want that one. I want the contractor ones.
yeah,
I want Mr. Jackson.
yeah.
Yes, I'll do that.
I can give it to you too. No problem.
So Michelle, you're saying that we're probably gonna break $1 million, which is,
Well, before we go there, we need to finish out about the part about
The rest.
what we gonna break on the part that we contract out.
that's what I was talking
Not with her programming.
Oh.
I'm talking about the people who we contract with, like Kids Gym, Oric.
Mhm.
Who else you got?
Karate,
Karate.
guys.
It's a lot of
Aerospace,
them. I need to know what that revenue
So
is.
that
the
is here, so this
contract-
is 75% of
I
it.
know our
Okay.
percentage,
But you
man.
just
I
want the
just
general-
wanna
The
know
contract revenue.
how much we get.
that we're getting.
Oh, okay.
Now how much we gonna break $1 million now
Gotcha.
that y'all had it.
no, oh yeah, the reason I asked because it looks like our expenses are a little over $1 million, so it's almost like the monies that we are that you're looking at, we're gonna break almost even what we pay out, is that correct? Because.
Are you talking about for contractual?
No, this whole entire,
What line item?
yeah, I guess, yeah,
I didn't
well,
know
I
that.
guess I'm looking at expenses total.
expenses
Your expenses,
total.
all the expenses, which is including those programs.
Correct.
So.
And our
it's-
programs,
So
yes.
if we end up with collecting $1 million, then it's going, so it's really almost paying for all of our programming.
Yeah, but that's just programs. Parks and Rec as a whole
Yeah.
is, what is it, three million?
In revenue?
And 3 million in expenses,
No, we talk.
I believe. I mean,
No,
total.
I'm just talking
She's
about
saying-
that particular
You're just talking
category.
about the category.
She's
Yeah, I'm
saying
just
we
saying-
gonna make $1 million. You saying we spending $1 million.
Yes.
So we not grossing. We was that grossing that we netting $1
Net.
million.
breaking
We're not.
even.
We're breaking
just
even,
breaking
that's
even.
all.
But
But actually, we not breaking even based on what she just said.
84,000.
84,000.
And that number might be, it might be
Breaking even.
exactly the same.
That's closer than we ever.
That was
got.
just a comment, it wasn't
We ain't
anything.
even breaking even, which is what a conversation we need to have because. Anyways, that's all right. Let's go.
Okay. So,
Michelle, your org chart,
Good catch.
outside of the,
Good catch. Good catch.
outside of the summer positions, do you have any vacancies?
So I have no vacancies and a request for a part-time receptionist or part-time rec leader for the Brady Center.
Okay, all right.
Councilman Carr, can you repeat your question?
I was just asking, outside of the summer positions, did we have any vacancies, which we have none, outside of the summer positions, which they're gonna be vacant until we fill.
So we're on this part of the meeting right now?
Org
That's just
chart.
the end org chart.
Yeah, cause the question is, are you fully staffed? Do we have, I mean, cause some of the, and I'm asking that in different departments because we've had a couple of reports where even though it says that number, but we don't really actually have. So do we have the staffing?
So like I said, for this programming, I was asking for a part-time.
Yes, okay, so
Part-time
so
person
just
for
one
Brady, which
position.
is that one position for this budget right here for programs.
Okay,
This budget is fully staffed, programs.
And this budget includes the summer staff.
And to the org chart, which would be red or blue. To the org chart, we had talked about Connie Rogers adding the police that would do the full year on parks. Is that in somebody's budget? The police officer that would go manage all the parks.
So I know she was gonna present
She didn't
to
mention it
Dr.
the other night.
Emmanuel. Yeah, cause we've met.
She didn't mention it the other night. So maybe Mr. Jackson, you should add that when we do our review.
additional questions on the supplemental documents? Moving on to recreation facilities. Line 51, 5210. You requested a position.
Yes, so this is a position I think, Terry, you told me was funded.
Yeah, so this actual line item, needs to be put back in. This line item needs to be put back into the budget. I think it was accidentally deleted, so, the city recommended number is the $73,357.
And what position is that?
So, so currently our athletic coordinator is acting in two positions. I think I've tried to do this 3 times. She's doing a supervisory job for the Conley Center along with an athletic coordinator, and it's with all the growing programs. It needs to be split. So that would be splitting that position to have a center supervisor like we do at Brady and at Wyatt, and then having an athletic coordinator, which would allow us to have.
I thought that's what I thought that's what he did. So he was the athletic coordinator.
back in the day.
That's not what you do?
Assistant director. For,
Where's his position at on?
he's on admin.
He's
It's a
an
different-
admin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have someone in mind? Is the job gotta go out to be posted?
We'll have to post.
And currently, Tanya is that person?
Tanya's acting in 2 positions, yes.
Let's see.
Does a great job at it. It's just 2 positions.
Put that on the record. She absolutely
She
does.
Any other questions on page 1?
The, at the bottom, 5720. Oh, no. Are any of the last 3 have anything to do with the parks or just facilities? 5710 through 5780 to 57.
So,
Any of those have to do with the park?
so the grounds does, but I put needs parks. So grounds, if you look at our, I guess we can get to the 5780. I've got aerating fields, contract for field chemicals, cutting, because we're currently having somebody cut the fields, field maintenance, gravel, irrigation, mulch for playgrounds, multi-purpose.
So these
field.
are all parks or just fields?
It's grounds in general for athletics.
Not,
or the
not the
playgrounds.
parks.
Nothing parks.
So that person get $200,000 for mowing what field?
No, it's broken down.
I'm sorry,
broken down.
198. I'm sorry.
No, it's broken down in there. If you go down to the transaction report, if you go into the transaction report, there's irrigation, there's maintenance, there's porta potty rentals. There's a lot going on in there.
But if we're looking at any type of, like I said, if there was a building or tree cutting, or if we need to repair a fence, it's coming out of just our recreational supplies.
You told me to go where?
The transaction report, page 2 of 3 of the transaction report.
I go down to
5780 to 52. It says grounds.
78.
So you're
Aerating, cutting fields, field maintenance,
so it's more of an athletic.
gravel 10,000, irrigation.
It's just repairs.
Now we talking about just the athletic fields in this 5780, right?
Yes.
So back to my point, we giving about $200,000 for this field, for these 2 fields,
They're fields across.
Conley Field and what other field?
So we've got Zup Park,
So you just say you're not doing
Brandon.
parks. That's what I was asking. We talking about parks and fields?
but the fields and the
Oh, that baseball
yeah,
field.
just the athletic. So if you think of it as anything that's athletic that we would use for
And
programs.
the reason why I asked you, because I was a landscape contractor for 2 decades. I'm just curious what we spending on maintenance, specifically for what field. That's where I'm going with the question. So the question is, this line item is dealing with Conley and Zup.
and Brandon and
Brandon don't have, Brandon,
Brandon has the field,
They
has
got
to be
a field,
cut, and has to be has
so-
irrigation, and
but you said sports field, not
but you
parks.
still have to maintain that field though.
Okay, so Brandon is considered an athletic field
Correct.
for this line item.
Yes. So cutting for
And so
foot-
building and grounds won't cut Brandon.
I haven't been cutting it for over almost 2 years.
Okay.
And I believe, from what I've seen, areas where malls like real mall, for your athletic field, real mall, that's where, where she's talking about.
Oh, I know the fields. I've been living here since 1998. I know the fields.
Yeah.
I know the fields very well. And I'm just talking about what I know is also reasonable and customary costs. That's why I was asking the question. I'm in the wrong business. I need to be maintaining the damn fields. I'm in the wrong business. I should have been fighting all these years to cut the grass. 200 grand. Go ahead.
Additional questions, excuse me, on, we were on page 1. Moving on to page 2.
Yeah, I have some questions under the capital outlay, Michelle. Where I put 200,000 into the chiller at Brady, but we have, is that included in this budget? Is that for last year? I mean, I'm looking at this year, this current year.
Is the cost, no, we haven't paid any bills from chiller yet.
Okay, and so where will that come out of? Because I see that
We paid half of it, I'm sorry. We did pay
I'm looking at line 547530, and that would that go into building improvement, or where would that come out
So it's
of?
been coming out of community enhancements. It's where,
Yes, but then from the community enhancement, it shows up here in your budget. Is that correct?
yeah, so all of that 1.5 from the community enhancements was under parks,
Got it.
under community enhancements.
Okay, so it
So-
went in. Okay, so it was for. I was just wondering where it would come out of. Oh, so and we're fine there. We're only at 149. I see. So because the rest of the money hasn't come out yet.
Correct.
Okay.
And several projects are coming out of there. So Terry and I have been communicating on what we're gonna need to do to transfer for those.
Okay,
projects.
and if we don't complete, okay, so with the community enhancements, we did have some money. So I noticed the park on Godby Road is going to be showing up in the for next year for line 547920. So are you transferring things that did not get completed in community enhancements this year, are going into capital outlay for next year? Is that what we're doing?
Councilor, like the parks in Southside,
Yes.
that's part of the TPD, just like it's 5 point something.
Right.
TPD
Oh, that would be
budget.
TPD. It won't
Not
be. It's a
recreation.
separate.
So it's not, okay, but no, okay, like when we get to transactions for next year, I'll
You
bring
talking
it.
about capital?
I'm
outlays
talking
for the
about capital,
recreation.
under capital outlay, recreation capital projects, but it's in transactions, so when we get to there, I'll discuss that. I'm just trying to understand in terms of funding, because I have community enhancement monies, and are the funds that have not been used in certain areas being put into next 2025, 26?
General practice, ma'am. Anything that's not capital, you can move it to the following year. It has to go in the fund balance. You can, if you don't spend it that fiscal year, if I'm wrong, you correct me. I mean,
Well, you got to reallocate it for the new year's budget. In terms of our community enhancements, none of us is going to spend out all of our community enhancement budget, so you can't transfer that money over, but you can reallocate what hasn't been spent for the
Correct.
budget.
Yes. So if you haven't completed a project, you can roll that project forward into the new fiscal year.
Well, I was assuming that's what happens with.
Well, I see it
So
happening
what
here for certain areas, but I don't see it happening for my Ward 1 projects. So that's where the question is. I have some community enhancement monies that haven't been spent, but when I look at the transaction report for 25, 26, I'm seeing that there's a community enhancement project that is showing up.
So I just want to make sure that I provide some clarification. That is not a community enhancement project that moved forward. This is a request for playground equipment. The community enhancement project that was in the budget for this past year was to secure the park. This particular number that's in for Godby Road right now is to secure playground equipment. So it's two different things.
Okay.
This isn't anything that's being rolled forward. Right, so,
Planning for building.
right, she's making, right, she's,
This is something totally different. It's not our community enhancement
Correct.
dollars.
Correct.
Got you.
When we discussed, a future park, I'm thinking we need equipment. So that's
Right,
what
I knew,
thinking
that's
of.
what I'm saying, when I looked at the playground, I knew it was for the park, because we're not getting more playground equipment at the Tracy White Recreation Center.
Right, but there
So,
was- I
so
saw-
that is some money that, so aside from what has been set aside for the park itself, which was in the budget for this year under community enhancements, okay.
So all the
Right, that-
all the remaining community enhancement funds are gonna be reallocated, minus
Yeah.
what was spent for everybody. So that's, you're gonna automatically do that under TPD. right?
Yes, well, we all need to do a review of that because we need to confirm which project should roll forward.
Right, so that, so just to be clear, no, that's not what that is, right,
But this is
right,
this is a
right.
totally
This totally different, right?
The question is, what's gonna happen with our community enhancement funds that have not been used?
So part of my,
Yeah, yeah.
part
Well, I'm
of
saying, yeah.
part of the community enhancements, we voted on for me to I put in a budget adjustment to move monies for the what do you call it, the renovations
Floor
for
renovation,
over at Tracy Wyatt for the renovations over at the community house. So because I knew that we weren't going to be able to spend the money for the park. And truth be told, the $700,000 wasn't enough to secure the land anyway, right? So
You had that in your budget, because I saw six something
Yeah.
for playground equipment. I knew that was for playground equipment.
it was for the park. It was for the park
I thought
itself.
you were doing that for
No,
playground
it was for the
equipment. That
park.
wasn't gonna cover the
Right.
park. So-
Exactly.
But it matched, it was commensurate with Rogers playground equipment, so
Right.
now that's gonna be playground equipment, or is that still just gonna?
No, she still has her 700,000, I guess.
No. We put in two different budget
Yeah,
adjustments.
two.
One is
Tracy Wyatt
that's
floor,
right, for the
and then
flooring and for the
brick
community,
building,
right?
yeah.
Right. So and then I transferred money out of there to go towards the Violetic
Yeah.
software for yeah, right,
roads, yeah.
and right. And that's right, the traffic study. So those monies are being used for Ward 3. They're just being reallocated because so that they won't just because we knew that we weren't going to be able to use it on the park.
And clarification though, for clarification, money, all the money that's not used in the community enhancement, except if it's designated for a project, we cannot move it till the following fiscal year.
Right.
Okay, that has to go in general, in the fund balance, so let's.
So let me ask the question.
Well, that's why I asked the question. It was showing now, and I thought, but it's a different. It's playground that Michelle was. It's not the money that Tracy was. Councilman Arnold was looking at.
Let me ask the question in another way. Hopefully that's not gonna be my problem, but if we come back and you give us a balance of everyone's, can this body then pick a number for next year's community enhancement? Let's just say it's $1,000 left. Can we go back and say we're gonna add that in the 2025-26 budget? That, because with the balance, not rolling the money over, but we can determine the dollar amount because what's left over.
Essentially,
there's-
it wouldn't be a rollover, but wherever we stop, that same is allocated
Project.
and budgeted for 25-26.
But you just said
There's already a budget amount for everybody in their community enhancement in the
next
No, that amount is
year?
just something that was generated. That is not.
Yes.
That is nowhere near my community enhancements.
It's only a placeholder.
Oh, $100,000 isn't enough per person.
So, okay, let me ask a question. Towards the end of the work budget, we come in here. Is that the conversation we need to have about what we want to be our community enhancement
Yes.
for 20?
Yes.
All right, well, let's cross
Yes.
that bridge
Yes.
when we get there. All right. Let's do that.
That
So
would be
we can move
towards
on.
the
All
end,
right.
towards the end.
Okay. All right.
And also, what's happening as we're going through the budget, we can see what the departments have already done, because I see that you all have budgeted some things I was going to put in community enhancements for next year, and I don't have to put that in my budget. Well, yeah, I got you.
And for clarification and good budget practice too, when certain amount are asked for, it has to be a project that, has to be tied to it. You can't just ask 500,000 and nothing is tied to it.
Nothing is what?
Tied to that money.
Oh yeah.
It has to be tied to something.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, let me ask you this question. Is our current community enhancement currently in this budget? How much we've spent, like the time you ran this? No?
Well, I do have a report that I plan to release this week on year-to-date spending, so I'll send that to all of you.
Okay.
But it's a moving number.
But it's in
Yeah.
TPD line item though, right?
No,
it's not in TPD line item.
No, it's not.
General fund balance.
Totally separate items.
Okay, general fund balance.
It just came from TPD.
You gonna give us a report on the general fund balance about community enhancement?
Yes.
Okay. Well, tomorrow in legal review, we need to talk about mine.
Okay.
I think FD got a 0. Okay. All right. Moving right along.
Page 3.
Hey, Johnny, what was the capital program you told me to look at when we got to that page?
So it'll be on the transaction, it'll be the last page.
So, what did you add for Phillips Park for capital improvements? Because I had wanted a pavilion, a group pavilion. I think I may have talked to Mr.
I put restroom upgrades,
Yeah, I had wanted to talk about a pavilion.
and I put Phillips and Zep Park Pavilion repairs, 30,000, which
No.
is what I did this year.
No, Mr. Jackson, can you put a placeholder? 'Cause I was talking about a large pavilion. Because
Okay.
so many large groups come to Phillips.
Okay.
They taking 2, 3 pavilions. When if there was a large one, plenty of these parks, you go down to Lakewood or go over there in the West End. Most all Atlanta parks got big pavilion for large groups.
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing you may need over there that I saw. The chessboard, it looks good. But there's not gonna be a whole lot of people that are gonna play out there exposed to the hot sun, so they may need a canopy.
You might be right.
That I looked at it and I said, that's a good spot, but at the end of the day, chess is a long game. Yeah. And you got no shade whatsoever there. So,
But Johnson, let's look at let's add a placeholder for
So I've currently quoted for the Barrett playground, and they're, depending if we're looking at full, one was 100,000 to 40,000 to 60,000. So it just depends on the size. It's a fairly small.
Canopy?
Yes.
Or,
Well,
the
let's
wind
look
shades,
at.
they're very expensive.
Well, look at what's in Willis Park. The shades that have been there, they've lasted almost 10 years. We put them in 2017. The two,
You're talking about pavilions?
the two pavilions that
Oh,
are
we're talking
over
about
the.
sunshade, like I
No,
said.
we're talking about a shade.
I mean, essentially, but that's enough to cover. If you do a couple of those onto them, it costs $2,000, and you can cover a table with each. But
No, we're talking about in the playground. It's actually shade, a large shade that goes over the
I was
playground.
talking about the chest area.
Back in the day, poor people used to plant a tree,
Yeah, she's talking about the Barrett Park.
Yeah.
a
There's no
shade
other trees
tree.
near that splash pad.
There are trees.
A shade tree.
And you wait till it grow. Mr. Jackson, can you just please make a placeholder for shade, canopy, and large pavilion?
Yes.
And we'll bring those numbers to you, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Her name not Johnson?
Johnson Jackson, it's hard.
Okay.
And in terms of facilities, Dr. E, I did mention to you about Willis Park, about some of those upgrades and repairs to raise that ramp where the flooding always happens. So, and one thing I did notice, all of my wood chips have started to just move and shift. So we gotta get, like you said, get the chips out of it, grab that front area, keep them behind the playground barriers, and we may need to, those are still, Michelle, the 8-inch barriers there. And sometimes the wood chips overspill that, so I don't know if you need a higher barrier or if the wood chips are just unevenly starting to push out to the outer
Yeah, we had
margins of it.
torrential flood this year on that area. So.
It closed, like I told you,
Yeah.
closed the drain.
Yeah.
So,
That's why you have all that. on
That's-
there.
so that's kind of a project that we gotta figure that out, and, I had someone take a look at it to raise that concrete and whatnot in that facility. So we need to kind of allocate something for that, cause I wanna get that done. Stop that flooding in the front entrance of the playground. We gotta figure something out between you all and, water sewer, stormwater.
I'd like to recommend that there's a park called Rodney Cook Park. It was built to control flooding. It was years of poor people saying that the city didn't care about it. It's major flooding. It's on Northside Drive and Simpson Road, the Rodney Cook Park. It's like a $100 million park. But the point I'm making is it's a watershed park. And so what they did, Joe, was that they did a hydrology study and they controlled the water. So what he's describing is called a watershed project. So you might need to get those professionals to take a look.
It's a small version of that.
Yeah, but I mean, the way they do it, it almost looked like you didn't even know it was flooding because of the way. I mean, that thing in Atlanta holds like 1 million gallons of water up under the park. Yeah, right. Y'all ain't never been to Rodney Cook Park? You been to the Simpson Road, the Bluff? It's across from the Home Depot back door.
Now
You haven't been?
I've been to Rodney Cook, but
Have you?
they got stormwater vaults. I mean,
That's
we
what I'm
got
talking
one
about.
at the AC Hotel.
Yeah.
Stormwater vault. It's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Cause it can hold the other 2 hotels that they're gonna build over there.
So Dr. Dan, what about a watershed study for his park? All right.
I don't need a stormwater vault. I don't need anything like that.
Well, we get it.
I get the address.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Is there any questions on the transaction report? Any questions on the supporting documentation?
So
And-
Doctor, we wanna budget something for part of parks for some of that. So I don't know what's appropriate between there and Public Works to see if we can get that little area fixed. So between parks and so y'all, whatever you think is.
Bless you.
No, let's say about 50,000 for right now, and put a question mark. And,
So Michelle, basically, again, center supervisors, that's that position, the third position that you're looking at on the org chart.
It was 2. It was a part-time in programs, and now we're just looking at splitting the athletic coordinator supervisor. It should be athletic coordinator, which would be 1 person, and another position.
Okay, so split, and
So
then a whole
splitting the
new.
1 person. And
So that would make it where you pretty much have a supervisor at each? Yeah, one whole supervisor.
Yes.
Okay, at each center, okay,
Does
that's
the
all.
splash pad have a full-time lifeguard this year?
we've got the regular hours, the 10 to 7.
I'm saying, is there full-time personnel
I
at
think
the splash pad this
for
year?
patrol or just a regular lifeguard? Lifeguard, is that what you're asking? Same as what we did last year. I think there was 2 people that were out there. They worked during the week and the weekend.
But it's in here?
Yes, it's in part of the our contract with the lifeguards.
It wasn't in the org chart though, was it?
No, because that's a contract.
Okay.
That's where the qualities.
And I want to thank you all for including the resurfacing of the track at Badgett in this budget. So you kind of gave me back the money that I gave you. So thank you so much for including that.
Watch this. How much you budget for the pavilion?
We're gonna get that from Michelle, so,
I need to know what we're looking at.
You'll give him.
I need to know what you're looking at so we can have an idea for the budget. What size?
The large.
The large one, yeah.
It's something that.
About $10-15.
No, it's pricey.
Because you got to pour concrete. Yeah,
It's
I'm gonna have to
pricey.
look at what that's gonna
But I
be.
mean, it lasts for years.
Yeah.
And you have in mind what area of the park you.
Up top,
By the splash pad?
Where
Is that
you
where you're
took the
thinking?
baseball fence down.
That's kind of figured. You and I talked about that a couple of years
You
ago.
can get a lot of people up there and they stop crowding out our pavilions.
Around there, okay.
Some people rent 3-4 pavilions for one picnic.
I just need to know what size you're thinking to kind of get
We'll
an idea.
talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll send you something.
Can I just put a question in mind?
Yeah. We'll
Any other questions for recreation?
The pavilions at Willis Park, when the wind blows, the 10 is starting to raise up on some
Okay,
ends
I'll get
of it.
Lance
So
to-
I don't know if that's just another tacking down on another coat of tin, but I noticed that the last time we had an event out there, and
Tom, you did the man wrong. That's all he got for
raised up a
engineer.
little bit, so you touch those up.
Man, got one page.
Okay.
Any other recreation questions?
Oh boy. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all very much. Appreciate everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, we're going to engineering next.
Hey Lance, let me borrow your ruler. I'll give it to you tomorrow. That's mine?
Yeah, I think that's the one you left last.
All right, thank you.
Questions on page 1?
One person shop, right?
Oh, I have a question.
Three person shop.
I have a question.
Councilmember Gay, go ahead.
Mr. Engineer, I noticed you doing a lot of, when I come up there, I noticed you doing a lot of what I call like administrative work. Most all these departments have assistants. I don't consider planning and the GIS and erosion guy your assistants. I think you should consider, Mr. Jackson, the city man, adding the gentleman assistant, because he just got too much. He's inherited too much backlog that he can't possibly do it himself. I mean, everybody in this budget is just getting more and more and more manpower, but you're not asking for any.
No, actually, I did ask assistant, but it was cut off.
All right, well, that's why we have budgets, to try and see how we can make things work. So, Mr. Jackson, my recommendation is that we add a tech and let him decide what the scope of work and an education level and all that.
Well, you know, if the city manager.
Joe, I'm not here to debate. Hold on, sir. I'm not here to debate. We debate on council. Each one of us have a perspective. Now, once we go through all this, if y'all want to vote it up and vote it down, we'll have that conversation. But we can't debate, because no one person's item is more important than the other. If that's the case, you don't need to drain your park.
All right, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now here's my perspective. This is what I think. I would be okay with looking at a part-timer, maybe a part-timer up there. Now, the other thing I would also say, city manager, I know we talked about this at a couple of the council meetings.
He wants you to talk to the mic.
No, it's
talked
on.
about this,
He wants it closer.
couple of the council
See,
meetings.
because the public is listening.
So if we're gonna consider this a floater position, I think that was what we needed in terms of a full-time administrative person that can flow from department to department is needed as well. I think that's something that would help all of the departments, depending on what kind of projects they got, what kind of workload. And that floater would never not be working any day of the week. They're gonna be in some department helping out, taking up the slack here, there, wherever they need it, and just general admin type stuff. So I still want us to consider that, just in terms of filling in the gaps, when we got illnesses, when we got vacations, and I mean, there are multiple uses for that floater position. So I still want us to look at that.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm talking about an engineer person that's versed and trained. I'm not talking about a level 2. I'm talking about somebody that know that you can hire that work. I go into engineer firms. That engineer firms that's got 20, 40, 30, 50 people in there. You got maps laying all over the place. You running out looking at this. You can't do this by yourself. And not only that, but it's time that we take engineering important. That's an important role of this organization. We're gonna go out here and build stuff. He can't do this by himself. You almost need 2 engineers out there.
Mr. Woldahana, do you think you need a full-time assistant?
Yes, definitely, yes, I need, because, yeah, I need somebody to help me on processing applications. We do receive some land disturbance permit, building permit, lot combination split. I need somebody to assist with this. I do receive a lot of phone calls. I do have to go outside to the field to see sites. During that time, somebody needs to be in the office to assist customers.
Because IT has, like, they have had 5, 6 people up there. You got a lady who you go in there just as a, she just do. He needs help. So.
Okay, so you're saying this person would not just help engineering. You said with permits and planning.
Yeah, permit for engineering. So there are 2 types of permits. For instance, for subdivision or lot combination, they have to submit the permit application to the engineering department. For land disturbance permit, they have to submit their application for engineering department. So we have to process their application.
Well, if we looked at, like I said, I'd meet you halfway with a part-timer for what you need.
Do we need to vote on this?
Let me finish.
We need to vote so we can move this budget tonight?
Let me finish. And this is just my consensus, I'll meet you, Dr. E took a look at it, I would meet you halfway with a part-timer, but I think the city planner and yourself, because y'all kind of work closely together, if you got someone there that can help expedite both of y'all's, processes, which sometimes overlap, right? Now, something like that might make sense, in terms of help up there, because
In the spirit of moving along.
Well, hold on. Let me. What's the consensus? I mean,
consensus is that.
wait, hold on. Wait, none of y'all can say what the consensus is. So I'm just doing a quick poll here. Councilmember Arnold, what's your thought? Mr. Woldahana said he needed a full-time assistant.
You asked for a full-time assistant. What was the budget for that position? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's about $52,000.
My issue is this. We done sat here and gave ourselves the assistants, giving them what they want to make. We using our community handmen to give people money to clean up trash at the park. And we're not going to sit here every time I say something and call it a debate. The man is a professional engineer with a degree, a license, and he need help. He said he need help. We trust him. We're not going to be debating all night about who needs
I have
what.
said, I mean, Councilmember Gay, to your point, I have received feedback that we have not been as responsive as we need to be with some of our, that people have reached out to me about some of their concerns in getting land disturbance permits and the like. And I'm hearing you say right now that you need help in order to process that moving forward. And also that means revenue for the city. So, and some of those permits that you're processing are probably in excess of what an administrative assistant would actually cost, depending on the size of the project.
Right, that's true.
And we haven't even talked about the maps. This man getting these big old rolls of maps. What you want to do? Read them himself? Fold them himself? Put them up himself?
Well, I think this, if that position is shared with the city planner and GIS upstairs, since they're all in the same area, then, because I have heard about, we have real problems expediting permits, for building permits, licensing, land disturbance permits, I'm sure as well. So if that full-time position is shared between those, then
I'm not compromising. Can you take a consensus so we can move on,
that's
please?
my.
Okay, we're going to do a consensus.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying, Councilmember Karn. Mayor Pro Tem, what are your thoughts? On a full-time in engineering, full-time admin in engineering. Okay. All right. So there's consensus on that.
Is that gonna be exclusive to engineering only?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions on page 1? Moving on to page 2.
Is your GIS in this budget? Is he in this budget? Yo,
Yeah.
he's in this budget.
In the first page.
Is his licensures and all that gonna be coming due for the Esri and all that?
Yeah.
It's in here? Oh, you need any more software? Are you good with that? I noticed y'all don't even have a copy machine upstairs. You got to go downstairs to make copies. Doc, they don't even have a copy machine.
Well, they got a great big one that y'all got.
But they got that for
going.
maps, but I mean, you got,
Yeah, so for the copy machine, I included in this one. So
You did?
Yes, I have a copy machine.
okay.
I have a question about municipal planning, line 52, 55, 30 on page 2. I noticed we didn't do anything in 2024. We put 45,000 in the budget. What do you plan? What's your plan? How do you plan to utilize that? I see we're putting it in. I'm not saying that we don't need it. Just want a question in terms of what's going to happen.
Which item?
This is municipal planning.
What item?
It's on the top of page 2, 52, 55, 30. It wasn't budgeted in 24. And I know, you haven't been here a whole year. So we had it 45,000 for this year, but what would that look like in terms of how would that be spent?
Yeah, so last year at this time I was not here.
Right.
Yeah, I came after this budget was approved. And on the last year budget, it says for specialized surveying service for Main Street. But I was intended to use this one for, I was trying to use this one for intended purpose. I couldn't find any documentation what was proposed to be done here. I got some information from the finance, but it says just a special surveying service. I couldn't figure out what is going to be done this year. For the upcoming years, I'm planning to do some environmental days, educate the people around about environmental stuff, trees. I would like to do some training about GIS. I do see that the residents are not using our GIS map. We have a resource that we are paying for. It is a free service, so I'm planning to do some training for residents so they can use GIS services.
But in terms of the municipal planning part, so you're saying that those dollars would go towards the additional training, or is?
This year's
No, for next year, for
Yeah,
the 50,000.
So this is just provide education for the residents, not for in staff training. And we'd like to do some environmental days, Earth days, stuff like that.
Okay. Still, I guess the question is, I'm just saying we might have just found some of where the $52,000 can come from. If that line item is really not being used, I see we still have miscellaneous services. There's still some money in here that, like I said, there wasn't anything used in that category. 526130. No funds have been expended this year for that, and there's 25,000. So I think that there is room in here to definitely make room for the for that position that we just had consensus on. That's all.
For 6130, I don't think we have anything for this year.
Right, nothing, and I
There's
know
nothing.
we put it in for next year, but it's just, I see wiggle room in your budget to make some things work. And that's really the purpose. I was trying to see what the plans were for those funds, and if we're not clear on those, then those are funds that can be allocated for another position.
So what about, if that's the case, then what about 6150, actual 158,000 too, and then That was in 2024. No one was here. He wasn't here. What was that for? You know?
That's a lot.
And then you got 50 now. Because listen, when we have to hire Prime or Pond or any of those people, don't that come out of this item?
Yes, that's under contract.
And then so that's
That's what I'm thinking that 6150 is. And that might have been having to do with the bridge or 2024 bridge, probably.
and so next year, if we have to go and do more inspection of the bridges or more specialized inspection, and you have to use a Pond or a Prime or another, you're gonna cover all that in $50,000?
So my proposal for this one was to do some studies and to do some, for instance, we have about 4,800 something parcels in the city. Out of those, about 7,500 something parcels does not have addresses. We have 0 addresses for those parcels. I would like to do some studies about the parcels through the entire city and to identify those parcels and to assign addresses. And there are some alleys that people block, so that created some like safety issues. So I would like to identify those alleys. So I would like to do some survey.
You
for
can
next
get
year.
that done in 50 in what you proposing? That's really what I'm asking. Not for you to say we don't want you to have what you need. We want to know, do you have what you need in this line item?
So my proposal was to not doing everything at the same time. For this year, if I do a certain area, and next year I'll do that.
And what about the fact that for the last 2 years, no one has been able to manage your maps? You know, we got this room, and I was told that somebody has to come and microfiche to none of our maps are digital. You know, everything is, you know what I'm saying? None of the property maps are digital.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah,
So if you want to find some historical stuff, they not gonna do it. Who gonna do it? Nobody's here no more. Ada used to do it, but who gonna do it?
But we got some of our large facilities and the full schematics and the diagrams, and now those are thick books with hundreds and hundreds of pages, 3 foot wide, 4 foot tall book.
Well, we might could get those from the people the engineers that drew them, but for the most part, a lot of our historical stuff is not been digitized. Could that come out of this?
So yeah, I have on the contractual service. I'm proposing to do digitalize all our paper files. Yeah, we have several files.
And you're gonna do this for that amount of money?
55,000.
Damn.
Yeah, we do have.
You talking about a person that gotta go in and load? Have you been up there?
Well, is it? You're the engineer. Is it enough?
You need to tell us what you need,
Right,
sir.
that's all I'm
what you
asking.
put there. I'm assuming it's enough.
Doc not gonna get you. Tell us what you need.
Since we have the standard, I'm planning to use our.
What you need, man.
Because he asked for 50, but he was only given 25,000.
I'm saying this is the time for you to get
this
what
is
you
your
need
first
for the
time
city.
Yeah, 55. I'm asking 55 to use. We have a plotter, brand new plotter. So this is just for manpower. We use the plotter, scan it, and save in the server. So I believe if we get this 55, we can digitalize.
All right. Okay.
The paper files.
All right. All right.
Additional questions on page 2. Moving on to the transaction report.
I'm sorry to keep bothering y'all, but I do have another question. Are we gonna employ drone technology in any of our engineering services? I know we a lot large partials. I see y'all trying to drive through them, but we got new technology now. For how do you pronounce it, for surveys that we could do with the drone?
For the GIS, I was discussing with the Mr. Hicks. He told me they got the drones. IT department has a drone, so
It can do the specialized mapping and all of that for engineering purposes.
so so we have to see that, and we are planning to do taking
yeah.
aerial pictures and integrate into our Esri GIS system. So
Most cities have drones and they fly 'em, but we got to be careful. We're a little bit more restricted in terms of drones and how much we can fly because we're in the. Well, first, the drone software isn't going to work generally if you try to put a drone up here, and if the software does work, the FAA, if they, you can't fly within. I think it's a 3-mile radius around this airport. I think it's 5 miles.
It's 4 stories, right?
Actually,
4 stories.
So
you can't. You basically need to be my husband's a licensed drone pilot with certified. You can fly. You have to get permission. So it's not like we can just do it anytime we want to. It's a process, but we can actually do footage here.
It can be done.
It can
You
be
just need a
done.
pilot
You need to have a person that is. I'm not volunteering him, but that's how we found out. So it's basically making sure you have a certified person that comes.
I just know that old William getting in his truck, driving around. I mean, those days are over with. We need to step our game up.
And what I would, AB, let's get with Mike tomorrow, see what type of drone and what his drone capabilities are.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, that's.
Could you
I
make
know
a-
he has.
Could you make a placeholder with no dollar amount, please? You know, Biden need quick access to data. You know what I mean?
Questions on the supplemental documentation?
There it is, file digitization and office space customization.
So it's the position, right, that's what I was gonna ask.
That's
Is
that person.
that the position?
Is that the one? That's Special Senior Projects Coordinator?
No.
Who is that person?
that is a project coordinator.
Do you need that person?
Yeah.
Well, how much that person cost?
It's 100
It
and
says 104.
Was that person already in the budget? Was this position already in the budget?
On the proposed budget?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It is?
it was recommended by both the department head and the city manager.
So it's,
Gotcha.
what page it was?
It was on page.
Okay, so you're getting that person in addition to the
Page 1 of
full-time
2
assistant, right?
on the worksheet. It is line 51, 52, 10.
So like if BITA gets started or some of these large developments, this person will help like manage those projects. Okay, that's
Is this
fair.
an this is an engineer,
Like a
So
project.
this is a project manager.
and he will handle projects, any citywide projects.
Yes, any citywide project.
Okay, all right.
Kind of like a team. You kind of like got you a team.
Yeah.
And councilors, what's been happening is, and reason why, I recommended this, he's been the city engineer, a project manager,
And he's not even complaining. He's
Well,
been doing it all.
I won't say complain, but we talk,
It's a compliment.
Yeah,
I'm complimenting him that he's done an amazing job without complaining.
yeah.
Not one time had the gentleman complain.
Always has a great
Yeah,
disposition.
and willing to help.
Yep.
All right.
And you can pay me tomorrow.
Any other questions for Mr. Waldahana? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Have a
Thank you
good
for
day.
everything. Thank you.
He on board.
Yeah. I get it. You speak that too? You speak Ethiopian?
No, I used to.
What is it called?
No, it was why they have a patois type, language coming up.
Et toi?
Moving on to T-SPLOST. Any questions on T-SPLOST?
Let's see. I do have a question because isn't that our roads? Let me see what we got going on here. It's one page.
It's 2.
Mr. Taylor, I have a question for you. It may be in the transaction, but is this item covering all of the road that we are proposing to do? Or is it going to pay some debt in GICC or something?
So it's covering bridges and road projects.
what's the total amount that is being proposed?
For capital outlay, total is $967,738.
And the rest of it goes to pay the debt service.
Correct.
On the bonds that we took out to build the road.
And about how much is that annually?
2.3 million
So
for the total debt service.
The 2.3 million is the total debt service?
Yes,
But how
correct.
Uh,
much is the amount that the T-SPLOST is gonna attribute to that debt service?
Total revenue we have recommended is 3.3 million.
I asked the question the wrong way. What's the total bond debt that TPD is gonna cover? What amount of the TPD is going towards bond debt?
Can I, council member, I think I understand your question. Can I give you,
Yeah,
can I
sure,
try? Okay.
sure.
So the bond debt that is being paid from the T-SPLOST is based upon the bonds that we took out essentially it was an advance on the T-SPLOST revenue over the course of 5 years. So we've got 2.3 of the 3.3 that is going to pay back the money we essentially were advanced so we could build Lottie Miller Boulevard and address some of the road priorities that you had several years ago. Remember?
That
So
$2 million.
yeah.
So we got.
So we got about $1 million, almost $1 million to work with.
That's what's left now.
How much we got left?
967.
And
Correct.
that's going to roads.
It's going to
Roads and
bridges and road
bridges.
improvements.
Yeah.
We don't have a list of those items, do we, that we're gonna address with this?
There is no itemization at this point.
Okay.
No.
I gave it to the one.
You talking about what though?
For the
Debt is
900,
going-
right,
Oh,
no,
for
for the,
projects.
right,
I thought
exactly.
the other night we talked about roads.
Yeah, but I think that,
We,
We
public
weren't-
work have to come up, once the PCI machine, that's,
Yeah.
that will categorize the.
and
some of what
so
needs-
this, it will be the amount of money that we can
roads.
kind of use
For
to
total
go
roads.
towards those roads, okay, all right.
And also this money here, the 900 and something, once the bridge is completed,
Okay.
we have, a lot of improvement that needs to be done from the bridge to Main Street here.
Such as
Yes, there's sidewalk, but you have overgrown, trees, overgrown vegetation.
The
And,
vegetation.
yeah, all that.
well, the problem with that is for years my residents has been complaining that our neighbor East Point has an amazing, robust street improvement program, and so they said, well, why are we not getting them? And they said, cause y'all spend all y'all money on bridges. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, Ward 4 wants more road improvement. We don't want to keep spending money. That might be tourist money. Y'all might need to get back some of y'all tourist money. We just need to improve our roadways. You can't spend it all on that bridge.
Well, we're not gonna spend it all. You said we got 967,000 to work with, right?
Yeah, 967, 738.
Well, keep in mind, I got 25 residential streets.
We all got streets.
No,
that
you
we
don't
work.
have not one house.
I said
You
we
have
got-
no residential streets in Ward 2, sir.
I didn't say, I do have residential streets.
What street is it? Herschel?
Frontage road, they're not homes on it, but they're residential streets. I got them just like you do.
I don't look at it that way because they don't pay
Well,
property
you don't
tax.
look at it that way.
They
Yes,
don't pay
do.
property tax.
They do it every month, Yes, they do.
So you saying what? You want to split it 900?
Split, well, we're not talking about splitting it, we're gonna use it for what's it for. Where it's needed,
Well, are there any questions about the budgeted amounts? Like I think there's an understanding right now that as it stands right now, there's 500,000 allocated to bridges, 467, 738 allocated to road improvements. The remainder of the balance in the T-SPLOST fund will go to debt service, and the bond principal and the bond interest. Any questions on that information?
Yes. The
Okay.
question is, there's a debate going on about putting $500,000 on that bridge.
Nobody's putting $500,000 on the bridge.
Wait a minute, dude. What
Is that what it says?
That's
Yes.
what she just said.
Yes.
She just
Wait a
said
minute,
it.
wait a minute.
Let's see.
I don't think there's $500,000 worth of work on that bridge.
Well, that's what we're saying. It's
Is that the
500,000.
remainder in the budget of the bridge itself? Or
No,
It's
that's
20%
additional
match?
T-SPLOST money. That's not
Right.
the bridge money. Y'all
And then
should've fixed
only
that with the bridge
467
money.
to road improvements, and
And
we
it's
need
not a
more.
lot of money.
Okay, so how about this? If there's $500,000 allocated to bridges, can we see if there's additional detail? Because obviously, we're all sort of thinking in the context of the pedestrian bridge. However, we have many bridges in this city, and I don't know if we're talking about improving some of those bridges that we may not even think of as bridges. So if we can get additional detail on that.
Okay.
Okay, I think that would be the best thing to
Yeah.
do.
But that money is earmarked, it's designated for bridges, and if we don't have that much worth of bridge work, it can go to roads.
It got
I guess what I'm
Yeah,
saying
formula.
is, the only way to get a lot of our residential roads finished is either to do a bond or spend more T-SPLOST money. Since I've been on council, since 2015, we've been neglected. That money been going to pet projects, special project by Jackson Myers. Everything from putting irrigation under the GICC to fill the pool up, to doing, if you go to 6 West right now, you gonna see new sidewalks and street, because I didn't have the votes. So we're not gonna keep spending money on these projects. If you go to 6 West right now, y'all, mark my word, they got brand new sidewalks and nobody even know whatever woods. Cause projects went over there, they didn't go to the taxpayers.
Councilmember, I think, I apologize for interrupting. Are you finished?
Almost. But
Okay.
We just need to make, I'm just acting in this way to make a statement that it's time to do more for our residential customers.
It's been brought to my attention that we committed to some specific projects with this money, and so if we can get that information as well, that will help us inform us about where these numbers are coming from and why they're specifically
That's fine,
allocated.
But I want
So
to say this our budget. And we're not tied by future councils. This our budget. So that's all I want to say.
but I think we are tied by what we may have taken bonds out for and what we've committed to do with.
Oh, you mean more bond debt now?
No, this is the same old T-SPLOST money. They were designated projects, I guess, for this, but we did say a significant allocation of this would go towards roads.
For example, line 54.
When we did Lottie Miller.
Lottie what?
Right, we did
But
Lottie
you
Miller.
saying
but-
bond debt to do it?
But let's get the details, because I think finance has some additional information for us that they don't have for us this evening.
Yeah.
So let's get the information and try to gain a better understanding instead of continuing to
So
speculate.
on that note, let me ask you this, Mayor. So coming out of this workshop, will we be able to tell residents that they're gonna get street improvements? Cause isn't that what we're here for, to spend this $200 million on some of their needs? Or we're here to talk about commitments? You just said it's not all bond debt.
Right. I think at 54-1402, you can actually absolutely say road improvements are included. But if we have some flexibility, let's figure out if we actually do have the flexibility that we hope we do, and that some of that money may not necessarily have to go towards bridges. I don't think we have the information this evening, but I think if Mr. Jackson and his team can supply that for us, we can circle back on this particular issue in T-SPLOST. Does that make sense?
Jackson, I'm trying to say something. Mr. Jackson, would you kindly on line 54-1401, which is bridges, because we did not put any money into the budget this year for bridges, but we spent 1.198843, well, $1,198,843 in a category that we didn't budget a dollar for, and a category road improvements, which we had budgeted $829,411. We didn't spend any of that money
it. I
on
didn't
road
like to say
improvements.
it
So
like
what
that.
I would like to have as soon as we
what I'm
possibly
saying.
can is a breakdown of what happened, because no money went to road improvement. And I do agree with, because Councilman Gay and I do have the most residential, and I'm not saying there's a problem with apartments, but we do have a lot of streets that, that really, really need the work. So I'd like to make this a priority in this 2025-26 year.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no way we're spending $500,000 on bridges at all. So,
I mean, that check we just wrote the other night to Prime Engineer was
Yeah, I was gonna say we.
100 and how much? 25,000.
I think 194.
194 to one person now,
194.
one contractor, and we sitting here. We sitting here talking about streets, and Winthrop Road ain't had a street paved since 1980. 1980, right? But a man come here and get $197,000 check.
that what neither has my end of Godby Road been paved in 25 years.
I've got streets and potholes.
Yeah,
And there's a street behind the MARTA station so bad, they got potholes to fill up your whole car.
Yep, Jackson.
It's so bad. I mean,
Are there any
who wanted that?
Are there any other questions on the T-SPLOST
That's my
budget?
ward, but in my ward on Fairway, you have to watch out driving. We have to put cones in the road.
So
to
I
keep people
think
from
we
going and
did
get
spend
potholes.
money. We spent a significant amount of money when I don't know if it was Prime or whoever it was that was connected to the bridge, and it was not budgeted.
Yeah. That's what
And
I'm
so
saying.
that's
Wasn't
probably
budgeted.
what's going to be a part of that. It's not funny, but a part of that $1.2 million that was spent.
So if we can just get the sub ledger on that line item, that'd be great. Any other questions on T-SPLOST? All right, moving on to SPLOST. Any questions on SPLOST?
When is it gonna be another splash? Anybody ever asked that question? We working off the 2016 splash right now. Aren't we, Mayor? You keep up with that kind of stuff. We're not last splash.
2016.
Our last splash we had. This you know the splash we paid for the school?
The
The Promise Academy. Wasn't that a splash?
That was an E-SPLOST for Fulton County that paid for that
Well,
school.
How do we get splash money? Is it a special?
This is
referendum?
this is Clayton County.
Oh, I can't control that.
Any questions on SPLOST?
I have a question about splash. Speaking of Clayton County, can Clayton County splash be used to cover some of the GICC debt since it sits in Clayton County?
Debt? No, I don't believe so.
It can handle maybe asphalting the parking lot with partial pavement or something along those lines.
Only capital programs.
But I think it can do.
How about the
capital.
roof? No capital projects.
I'm not sure, but
Because
I don't think it can
built
do
it built the fire station.
It did build the fire station.
So why can't it do repairs at GICC?
well,
Can you,
I think
I think
there've been
I think
funds
they
allocated.
used SPLOST money to do the carpet.
Every year Mercedes would take money out of Clayton
Yeah.
County splash to do carpet work, to do stuff like
all
that.
kind of work
Yeah,
come out of your
so
splash on
It's
Clayton
more than
County.
it's more than road work. I mean, it's more. It covers whatever's in Clayton County, and
Yeah, and
CICC
speaking of,
sits in Clayton County.
It is not. Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I was trying
speaking
to.
of roads that need to be repaired, it's a big hole. It's not just a pothole. It's a hole that can swallow a whole car. Right there in Clayton County on Phoenix Boulevard. So there's a lot of repairs that need to be
on the
done.
road?
Yeah.
Where is this? This is that big?
At that, yeah, they have some barriers.
Where about
So you know where Phoenix Boulevard is? Yeah, in West Fayetteville, they've got that whole road blocked off, and they were doing some repairs. But yeah, so just FYI, we will that some of those dollars probably will need to be allocated towards the roads over there, which are full of holes.
Any other questions on SPLOST?
So this is just Clayton County, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can't use it anywhere else.
So my question, Mayor, when would a citizen do another splash vote? Who has to introduce that?
The county does.
Clayton County.
Fulton can't introduce a splash?
Not for Clayton.
No, not Clayton, guys. Splash.
Well, we have a lost in Fulton.
So we don't have splash. Fulton only can do loss.
We ha-
Most.
We have lost through
Most.
with no city most, and then there's the E-SPLOST.
And that's only for Fulton County schools?
Correct. But Clayton County has an E-SPLOST too.
I understand. All right.
They both come from school taxes.
Okay.
CDBG fund. Any questions on that CDBG?
I have questions about how we're using our CDBG monies. Unless I am incorrect, CDBG funds can be used for more than just recreation. They can be used for eliminating blight, economic development. There's a lot of other activities, and I definitely, Councilman Arnold, I'm sure you can agree, and especially and I have areas where there's blight, but I think that we really need to look at some additional uses. I'm not saying we can't put it into recreation, and it is being, but we need to use it for other things. And
Where has she allocated?
well, the only thing we're seeing is parks and recreation.
Is it all of it?
Yeah, it's always
What
citywide.
line is it?
It's just the whole entire page is citywide events, and that's only, there's no money budgeted at all for CDBG funds for this upcoming year
block grants.
for citywide events. But for parks, there's nothing
So you're
but
saying the
recreation.
305 is going to just parks? This 305?
They're budgeting 160.
Recreational capital projects.
Generally, what used to happen is most of the CDBG went towards parks and rec. But, two things we probably need to do, city manager. Well, first find out what percentage of parks and rec's budget is CDBG out of their whole entire budget. Looks like they're taking all of this. The other thing is, let's verify all of the qualified uses for CDBG. That
Which
way
I
we know.
have them right here, so I can send them
Where
to
they came
everybody.
from?
Okay.
What's
The internet.
Well, no, but what source? Is that like an
Oh yeah,
OCGA?
from the
That's state
community.
law?
Yeah,
This is ours,
United
okay.
States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay,
You know, we can even purchase properties with you can for housing. You can public housing, housing purposes, construction and improvement of public facilities like water and sewer systems. We've got that covered.
The problem with Mayor Pro Tem is that she've always used it because they didn't put money in the budget for nothing else. They
Right.
use it for nothing.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is, given the current climate in Washington, I think this might be, I've heard that this is one area that we'll probably see some cuts.
Might be the last CDBG.
So I wholeheartedly agree that we should think bigger with CDBG. However, our allocation of CDBG might turn out to be, we may not even get that 160.
And you have to
When
match
will
it
we
too.
know? Oh, I'm not on? Okay, when will we know? Do we have any, whether or not if we're gonna get the money?
Well, that's from the federal standpoint.
Yes.
It's going to go through court and be challenged and everything else. It can be a while before we actually know if Congress is going to allocate it and if it's going to stand up in court if they try to remove CDBG from certain communities. So,
Well, fortunately for us, this is the only federal money that we depend on. The rest of them is local.
Well, it hasn't been taking that long for the funds to get frozen.
Well, I think the president's coming out with his budget in the next couple of weeks.
EPA,
And so,
the $800,000 that's federal money, 2.5 million dollars. We,
Is that in this year's budget? The
um,
EPA? Did they put that in this budget? The EPA?
I have to check. I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, but Doc said there's some other federal
Federal
dollars.
Yeah, that
Right.
we
And
get.
I'm
Yeah.
asking, where in
No,
the budget are we allocating the EPA?
well, we get it allocated from, like Nakima gave us the 800,000 from the federal budget. She could allocate it to her city, so it doesn't come to us necessarily, but it's for us.
We can't budget it until we get it.
Get it, yes.
correct.
We
With-
can,
with-
yeah.
with-
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So
we
then
can
why are
put
we
that.
budgeting
Stuff's
for
gonna be challenged.
CDBG?
But we know we're gonna get the CDBG to Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just saying. My point is
Already,
that
that's what I was
we
asking
have
about.
we are through our community enhancement dollars putting money into recreation and recreation facilities. So just want to enlarge our outlook in terms of, if we're covering our recreation facilities, which it seems like we're doing a good job at this point, what are some other ways that we can utilize those funds to definitely, my big concern would be blight.
Yeah. Your bathroom took a lot of CDBG money. It took like,
Oh, Barrett.
The bathroom that's in Barrett.
yeah.
Okay, I had nothing to do with that bathroom.
No,
Just
but
want you
not
to
you,
know.
but I'm saying your CDBG money that you advocate for blight It wasn't for your bath. It's $650,000 for your job.
And now I got to deal with keeping it from having blight.
And Roger, the CDBG before that was your playground money. That was $600,000 for your playground was CDBG before
And I can't use
after
it.
that.
Not
So,
with Zup,
everybody's used it.
because Zup is in the flood, right, so.
But you got some areas.
Well,
Right,
I
Zup is in the flood
do want to make one point of clarification. CDBG money has to be used, or it goes back to the.
Yeah,
and in the
for the-
case of the playground,
Yeah.
the reason why we got that was because several cities did not use their monies, and so it's gonna go back. And Michelle Johnson said, "No, we could use it for a project." So we just got fortunate. Yeah. And another thing I want to tell y'all is that CDBG has a match, has a 20% match.
Yeah. Most federal, like the EPA stormwater is a 20%. The lift station is
And Mayor
20%.
Pro Tem, the paperwork is.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, when you talking about have you seen the paperwork?
Oh, no.
Oh, you
Yeah, the type
It's
of grant for the
challenging,
bridge
but-
was a 20% match.
for you to do it for.
But we are gonna get this $120,000. It's been allocated. Fulton County Community Development sent us this letter January 8th, 2025,
Yes.
stating that and that's coming from the county level, so, and that's gonna be for Charles Phillips
That's
Park.
to pay the rest of the debt
Yeah.
on the playground.
So we're gonna get that, but now it's for the next year. We have to see what's gonna happen in 2026, yeah.
That,
All right. On to electric.
You said fine.
Electric.
Questions on page 1?
Hold on, we gotta get to it. No choices. I see electric line, I see. Are we at electrical power fund or which?
Yes.
Which one?
Electric
Okay, electric power fund.
The line.
Okay, I see electric power fund, but we're at.
Department 4600.
Electric customer service. I got it. All right. So Hugh, is this overall just in terms of 4110 sales? I mean, overall, we're up in general, or
Just residential you're talking about?
yeah?
Yeah, there's a footnote in there, if you see it, that this budget amount does include a rate adjustment.
Okay.
And I'll bring that to you in June.
So is all of West Fayetteville? They're complete. They're still in the last
Yeah, I
phase.
think they're kind of
They're-
half and half. I think they're quickly adding on there.
So they haven't gotten up to the 400 yet, or
I
whatever.
don't
they-
think so.
I met with them, either Thursday or Friday. They said they had, close to 100%, occupancy. And what we talked about is phase 2, townhouses. And,
The other half.
that's what
Are we talking about Summersby? What are we talking
Summersby.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I know that,
Sorry. So I know earlier, well, probably in the fall of last year, there was a concern about the occupancy rate. And the manager informed us that they needed some help. But I think early this year, I heard that things were turning around.
Yes.
And so you said we were almost at 100%?
Yeah, close to the stores at the lower level.
Yeah.
That's what they looking to fill. But as far as the apartment part, they just about
100.
capacity that they turning people.
Okay.
Turning people.
Well, that's, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
gonna say that's
yeah.
good,
So,
but,
but,
okay.
Yeah, but the problem with phase 2 is a lot of, surveying still going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of rocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this behind the school, going in the woods behind?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of rocks and that they encountering, but even the survey map that we looked at, you can see they are proposed certain amount of townhouses, but with the rocks and what have you, they said they might have to not only scale back, but move to certain area of the property to build those townhouses there. But one good thing that they have going on for them, there's a developer
Right.
that will help them, with the townhouses.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
I'm sorry. What do they have on the, because I haven't seen the plan for the townhouses. How many townhouses are they planning?
They don't have a set amount, because they're still surveying to see where it's buildable with
Gotcha.
all the rocks and everything there.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if I don't know if I overlooked this, but
Okay.
this question just in terms of the
Okay.
revenues that come to the city through donations to the Power Up program. Where can we find what that amount has been? I mean, that's Mr. Scott Pro.
We've awarded about a little over 14,000.
So where would that show up in terms of revenue? How does that? It goes to the.
Revenue. It's an in and out. We agree every dollar we get in, we want to push that out.
Okay, so that never will show up in the budget. Well, that's been a fantastic program, and just want to just really glad many residents have expressed they're very happy to have the assistance. So thank you. I didn't see it, so I was just wondering if I missed it somewhere in all these pages. Okay.
Any other questions on page 1?
I have a question. Is all salaries in this item, page 1, all your salaries?
Yeah, for existing employees and one vacancy.
All right, so I have a question. You have some employees in the same work category making, they all in the same, I think it's 3 of them, they're in the same category, they all got different pay.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna do studies, I know about pay compression, I get all that, but in the meantime, I would like to have a discussion about adding them all at the same.
And I was gonna bring that up, some kind of flexibility to get them all about the same level.
That's all I'm saying.
It's 4 linemen, I'll get them all the same level.
Could you bring us the total, what that would
Or no,
cost?
it'd be 21,000.
Okay.
Well, we talked last year about bringing up those, the linemen weren't included in that increase when you got to 20%, remember Hugh?
I think you maybe, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. We
Your
did.
three meter reader guys,
Yeah, that's
they
a
run
different
into
department.
That's not this department, this is another
Right.
one.
Well, when we get to that, I wanna
Okay.
talk about that.
So, Mr. Jackson, do you mind just adding a placeholder for adjusting those salaries, please?
And the meter readers,
And the meter readers.
because we gave you a 20% for his lineman, was last year, right?
Other than that, but yeah, we got it.
Yeah, but the 3 meter readers didn't qualify technically speaking, but,
Yeah, they weren't linemen.
right, but their duties were a little bit broader than, I think it was deserved for those 3 as well, so I wanna definitely look at making sure that we bring them up since they missed the boat on the 20%.
Where will we find their, okay, that's vacant positions, okay. So they would just be added into the power, we don't have a breakdown.
There is another section we get.
Okay.
The meters, right? Are you for the meter?
The
or
lineman,
the line?
yeah, the lineman, okay.
On page 2, line 51, 5210. What were you asking for?
That is a position, of power superintendent. I'd like to bring that back. I don't think it was intentionally, taken out. I think it was just zeroed out for some reason. If we could add that back in, that's somebody to help blend out. He's kind of spread, kind of thin, and I want to do that. And there's a little bit of succession planning there
Yeah.
too. I'm thinking too. So.
Let my road dog.
Is the I'm jumping around, but is the revenue all in what page, Terry?
Revenue is on page 1.
Okay, and we can't project the revenue from that battery deal you going to be okay.
The data center, I really didn't put, but like just a little bit in there, because I'm not counting it going 100% in this next budget. So I'm being a little pessimistic about that.
No, I get it. I just didn't know if we were going to try and balance anything with expecting of that.
That would be in our next the 27 budget. I just want to make sure it gets up and running.
Okay.
Questions on page 3?
Mr. Hugh, do you we all been getting a beautiful streetscapes. You got lights at
Yep.
the Brady. What's
Brady.
it called? Brady.
The Brady Trail looks absolutely amazing at night, and so does the garden. Thank you all for putting the lighting in. Our community garden also has lighting.
Yeah.
Okay. So to that point, do we have enough budgeted for more decorative lights?
Yes, we do.
And so
We
how
get
many
to
you have
capital
budgeted?
expenditure. I think that's about 80 of them.
80
in
did
the
you
next
budget
slide,
it for?
yeah.
Okay.
City manager, one thing we're always doing is encouraging the new developers to go electric as opposed to gas or whatever. Obviously it serves us, to our advantage. One of my apartment complexes, they're, talking about the full renovation. Apparently they're closing at the end of May, and they're in the middle of their due diligence right now. They were gonna keep some of their gas. I said, I think since you're overhauling, it's best to go all electric. And when I explained to them the reasons why, they said, well, we'll go all electric. So we want to make sure that when new outfits come in, that we encourage that, and so that we can get that income as opposed to gas south. Nothing against gas south. But
I have a question on 5450, page 3 of 5. Legal fees. Are we on that page?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay, is this legal fees being spread out through everybody's budget, or are these fees on top of? Because we don't really have a line item. We don't really have a tab for legal. We probably need a tab for legal.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on in legal, about like y'all's department. So my question is, like they did the computers, but IT, is everybody's budget legal as part of what we pay our total legal fees, or these additional legal fees you budget?
I think that's something we put in there every year, but it hasn't been billed in a while, so yeah, it's just.
Well, because I noticed everybody's budget got this item. My question is, if all these add up to a big dollar amount, is that going to our legal costs, or is it coming out the general fund?
I think it comes out of it collectively. How much legal do you actually have that you deal with in a year? You don't have too much, do you?
Hardly, really.
That's why your number has been relatively.
But I'm not talking about your fee. I'm saying in everybody's budget, there's a legal fee line item.
I'm back to my shameless plug of program-based budgeting.
But what I want to clarify is simply this: if he ran all the legal fees and he came up with a number and just said came to 100,000.
Yes, sir.
Or $1 million. My question is that taken out of what we paying our legal fees now, or are we taking that money out the general fund? This money just staying in the books?
I mean, that's nothing really get down
Yeah,
to.
compare. What we, with the legal fee, that most of what we pay now comes out of the executive office. That's budgeted.
I guess I can't explain myself. I'm not articulate enough. That's what I'm saying, Terry. This item says,
It's 1,500.
well, first of all, I thought it was more than that. That's one problem.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah,
It was about an hour
1,500.
worth.
That might be the problem.
Yeah,
But so what do you think the total amount of legal fees by all departments in this whole budget, Mr. Jackson, if you just had to guess?
Well, it varies because you have some legal fees falling under contractual services. And so, I mean, we could look at it and give you like what we paid out maybe in fiscal year 2025 to give you a understanding of legal fees.
Could you run a report to tell us what the total legal fees in the entire budget is and give us that number?
Yes, yep.
That's okay. And may I say this? I'm trying to beat up on the lawyer, but with the amount that we're paying, I think it's only fair that I'm not saying add it to your budget, but I think we deserve a breakdown. That's a lot of money for us to just not have this and DMO. That's too much money not to have a breakdown.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
They got $10 million in their account. Hell, I don't even know what bank they use.
And we constantly are doing things in the city. I think the city's paying for a lot of things that the
I don't
DMO
even
should
know
be
what they do with the
financing.
interest. How much interest they make on $10 million? How much is that? What do we do with the interest? Is anybody using the interest for their projects?
That's a good question.
What did they do with it? That's what Ward 1 ought to be mad about.
I am.
Your constituents.
But I am too. I'm one of my constituents.
Questions on page 4?
City manager, can you bring DMO to a workshop? They do an audit, don't they? Don't they give us don't they present a?
I've not seen.
No,
I
don't-
mean,
don't
But
they
we
present-
haven't. I haven't seen. I know nothing.
They were
on
supposed
any
to
spending.
present, but
They've got a budget, of course, but they need to.
They need to
do a
let us
presentation.
know how
Can they do a
the millions of
presentation
dollars that we
since
give
we're in
them
the budget
every
session?
year are being spent because, and then we need to understand what things that we are paying for out of our general fund that could be, that they could take on, especially when we have these citywide events that we're inviting everybody in the world from everywhere to come to.
And all these advertising line items.
how much?
That's what I'm saying. I want to know if my signs, if the signs, directional signs, and all these things can be taken care of, or what kind of marketing.
And to be fair.
But I did ask Dr. Adediran for that.
And to be
I
fair-
said I wanted to meet with the DMO and go
And to
over
be
that.
fair, we need to have a lawyer present. And, is that trial, legal fees, all these phone calls y'all be making to him? When y'all call him, he charging, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Needles running. That's what it is.
So we need a breakdown. It might be we need to stop calling them so much. But y'all ain't looking at it.
saying y'all.
Put yourself in there. Mostly you. You make more calls than anybody.
Are there any questions on page 4? Are there any questions on page 4?
You got it both speed dial.
Are there any questions on page 4?
Correct. When I'm getting ready to do something, I
got
want
it
to make.
on right
I
now.
want to
You
make
got
sure
it
I'm
on
in the
speed
boundaries
dial,
of
man.
law.
Are there any questions on page 4? Page 5 is just totals. So we're moving to the budget transaction report. Are there any questions on the budget transaction report? That is 5 pages.
Mr. Hugh, since we just a general statement, we got a lot of aging infrastructure when it comes to utilities like poles, transformers. Cities now going underground. If you go down our hospitality, if you go down Main Street, which used to be Roosevelt, from Lee, you got wooden poles leaning here, leaning there. And when I travel, when I take my wife to work or go out anywhere, I see all these new poles going on. When we gonna get some of these upgrades? I see you did it on Virginia Avenue, but what about the rest of the city?
Yeah, I mean, we're slow to do that, but I think what you might have saw was new construction, typically. But yeah, we do some upgrades. The problem is you got so many attachments. You got cable, you got lights and all that, so you gotta get all that replaced. It's not an easy fix, but we do also a pole inspection and we replace them if they.
But I guess what I'm saying is, when are we gonna have the types of intersection, the new utilities that we see in most cities? It's like exactly what you got on Virginia Avenue. One pole, do 3 lights, So we gonna get some of that.
So I learned the hard
On Main
way.
Street.
I learned.
That's a good place to start.
I
though.
learned with the trying to get those flashing crosswalks, the study for Godby Road, that all of that work that was done on Virginia Avenue wasn't done by the city.
No, it was done by Aerotropolis.
Yeah.
So then,
He didn't have
so let
anything
me
to
ask
do
you
with
this
it.
question.
So I'm gonna
Is
ask you a question when he finished.
is all that type of improvements grant money, or do cities pay for? Cause do cities use SPLOST? How do cities fund those types of jobs?
We don't really get any funding for that.
That was from the
Yeah, that came from Aerotropolis.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
Virginia
Airport
Avenue was
District.
Aerotropolis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
They gave out the money.
I'm gonna talk to
So
Shannon
what is your
James.
recommendation? For
Yeah,
the
that was
city of
Aerotropolis.
College Park to start trying
They
to
should have
improve
some.
their, like Maine, as she said, Maine and Lee.
Yeah.
It's the-
Oh.
Why is we still got holes?
I think
The business intersection to the business airport in the world.
I got an
Right.
answer to your question.
That's where everybody's coming when they
Yeah.
get off the planes, right? They're
Yeah.
coming over here to eat.
I don't get it.
On page, it's on the capital improvement
What page?
breakdown. We have traffic signal upgrades where we're gonna improve 6 intersections.
What page, Mr. Hill?
That's on page 5.
It's
Traffic signal upgrades.
Exhibit G1.
We got 860,000 in it to upgrade 6 intersections.
Okay.
And I can tell you those.
If you can get us the list of the intersections.
I got them. In fact, we're doing a design and RFP on them. Work on that now.
So are these intersections with the type of utilities that I'm?
Yeah, we're talking about the arm type.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
And that's what that number
Yeah.
is.
I'll tell you, Maine Hospitality Way is one. Global Gateway and Riverdale Road is another one. Leslie in Maine, Godby in Schofield, Riverdale Road and I-85 North, Riverdale Road and I-85 South. Those are the 6 main ones.
You didn't catch Maine and Lee. That's the
Uh,
Maine and
Thank
Lee.
you for that.
Okay.
No, I think they need to go first.
Yeah.
Maine
Well-
and Lee should go first.
Well, they all have similar designs, so we can just use one design for most of it.
But what I'm asking you, Ms. Hill, if you need to increase that item, cause Maine and Lee need to go first. That's the main one we need to
Okay.
add,
Oh, yeah.
cause it's like so much traffic.
It may have been in there, I just didn't list it here.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, can you please put traffic utility upgrade Maine and Lee, and we
Okay.
can see it that night.
How much I got paid for this thing?
Well, I'm excited that you did that, Mr. Hill. You forward thinking. There it is.
Thank you.
I have a question on page 5 of 5 of the transaction report. The Hawthorne subdivision electric improvement, what are those? It's 54,
That's further
77, 10.
expansion
Okay,
of more homes, yeah. We're pretty much building out as they build.
gotcha.
But you get reimbursed, right? Or we have to eat that.
No, they've already paid us for everything, they paid us, I forgot what it was. It was several
For this
thousand.
work.
Yeah,
And you expensing it now.
right.
Any other questions on the transaction report?
You don't have any vacancies.
I do have one lineman that's still vacant. We wanna wait until if we get any type of increase in July, and then fill it. We can do that, and then if we fill this power superintendent position with one of our linemen, then we'll have another vacancy.
What about EV charging stations? Do
I
we
saw
need?
that.
That's in there.
I said here,
How many you got?
I think I got, let's see what the total is. They're about 7,000 each.
That looks like about
So
5 or
that means
6.
you have
Yeah.
about 5.
Yeah.
Oh, you needed 3.
Well, I got 2. I got one going.
We got one on the way
Willis Park.
for Willis,
Yeah,
if they're already on the way.
I got one more.
Where are they going?
We're putting some at convention center. We got mainly convention center and parks, is what we're talking about.
Okay.
And, we can put one at each park. The problem is when you do that, it's gonna take up 2 spaces.
Okay, that's
And then
fine.
if you have like a budget, I don't know where we put some there. There's no place really to put it in there.
You mean
Yeah.
Barrett?
I mean, Barrett, I mean.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's what I was
we'll-
gonna say, Barrett doesn't
We'll
have
take,
any,
we'll
but
take one that's up.
I'll take,
We'll get, in fact, we could probably get that done in the current budget.
how about putting something at Badgett? Since you said Badgett.
Yeah, we can, like I said, it's gonna take up 2 spaces.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. with these
What
items.
about Brandon? That's where most of the electric cars are.
We can do Brandon.
They do have a lot of electric.
They got a
cars.
lot of electric cars.
We need to, let's put one there.
And you're gonna
When
need a
it's
camera
up.
too, cause if somebody tear their cars up, you're gonna have, cause back, Brandon's so isolated.
Well, we got 2 cameras for Hawthorne Station, but that would be just an additional camera. That could be a fixed camera for that EV charging station, I guess.
Okay, cause the 2 you are requested, the police also put in 2 more in the back, because we're not sure if they jump in, how,
Dr.
the,
Darren, who watching the cameras? Can you do what I recommend to Mr. Hicks is to give the property managers or the leasing office access to the cameras? That's what we've done at 2601 Roosevelt.
Okay.
Their cameras are in their office and they paid for it.
Okay.
They see the whole, and they got sound. They see the whole development right in the leasing office.
I can ask, Meritage, I can ask them.
Sure.
Any questions on the supporting documentation or the org chart?
So we wanna add a camera at the EV charging station at.
Okay. So that would make 3 then instead of.
That doesn't have to be a PTZ necessarily, that can be a fixed camera since that charging station won't move. So, and those are like less, it's like $3,000 or something.
I'll check with Mike and see how much.
You gotta show him where you want it at.
Oh, ends up?
Yeah, well, I will get with you.
Okay, okay.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, yeah,
You gotta meet him out there and show him. Oh, for the stadium? He just said you can't get no stadium.
Oh, no, he just said I would take up 2.
It will take
I'm
2.
saying for your park.
Onto the warehouse.
Oh, Barrett Park, we don't have parking really at Barrett Park. I mean, all we have is just that little area where the track, it's,
Where the
There's
traffic.
there's no
spots over
parking.
there.
That's
I
why you
mean,
don't have big events, huh?
that's why we don't have big events. Barrett Park is really just kind of like a neighborhood park. It's really, it's, that's the way it was set up.
Questions on warehouse? We're on to warehouse. Page 1.
Oh.
Any questions on page 2?
So, I'm lost.
It's warehouse, electric warehouse.
Department 4610.
One part, son.
Yeah, just one.
Just one person.
Yeah, just one person. One man.
And we really probably blend this section into the liquor line.
How is Moody's coming?
Well, I'm glad you asked it.
Well, then don't
Right now,
answer.
it's a mess.
Oh,
We keep all
Lord,
together
I'm
together.
sorry I asked.
What are they doing? Are they doing something outside?
They dug up our driveway, and put a
Development
water
agreement?
line, and it's just everything's parked in the way. And
Was that part of the development agreement?
I don't know, it's,
It was, Joe. Remember we sat right in here and we talked about
Well, we reconfigured the driveway so that it wouldn't, interrupt or block any of your service trucks.
I think that's when it's done, but right now during the construction, it's everything's.
So it's just a gravel, like they do our streets when they cut the
Yeah, I
manholes.
think, they have some asphalt piled up too, but, I saw a
Well,
picture.
we got a city manager, maybe y'all, Hugh, maybe y'all go out there and we gotta get them straightened up so you can get your service trucks out
Yeah,
there.
mainly big truck deliveries.
Well-
What might be blocking.
That's pretty much the only issue.
Yeah.
Well, city manager, y'all go out there and let them know.
Yeah, I don't know who to contact as far as, hey, let me get this.
That's gotta be Al Siegel or Kevin.
Can or.
Right,
Okay.
Ken, yeah. Right.
Okay.
Any questions on the warehouse or any of the supporting documentation?
That's the meter readers.
No,
No, we're on to customer service next.
Before we go to customer service, man, I need to ask one other question. Since we have you here,
I'm not going anywhere.
you know, I was told, I don't know if this is a rumor, but I was told that y'all had almost, I don't know, 50 million or 5 million. It was a lot of millions to relocate. And the ideal location was on White City and 29. And that money was put away for y'all to move. And the previous council used that money for other projects. So my question is this. With talking about building out 6 West, y'all know y'all eventually got to move, right? My thought was, I went out with Glenn. Vital has property on 29 on Main Street that I think personally that would be an ideal location. I personally think the warehouse is too far for your crews.
Oh, it is.
Way too far. So what I want to say is, I would like for y'all to have a workshop with Vital to talk about a couple parcels that I think that need to be taken off the market as a placeholder for y'all moving.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
You didn't have a designated place in mind, did you, by chance?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to stay in the 6 West area, but I think the problem there is we have storage. And maybe that's not part of the plan, is that anything.
That's a 15-acre Vital property on Main that you could sit back far enough that wouldn't stir nobody.
Now the power department, I mean, Public Works is gonna be moving over to your Forest Parkway.
No, Joe. I'm saying the opposite of what you just said. My comment was consider moving at a Vital parcel for the whole electrical and water and sewer.
Yes.
Public Works to your the whole deal.
Okay, as opposed to moving on Forest Parkway.
As opposed to moving on Forest Parkway. Because it's so deep, the lot has so much depth. You could comfortably put your sanitation and all those departments without imposing on the community. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know where the Dairy Queen is? You know where the Dairy Queen is?
Yeah.
You know what the Dairy Queen is? I saw you out there one day with a guy one day, Joe. The lot I'm talking about.
You talking about 2245 Roosevelt used to be the apartments? That's owned by the city of Atlanta.
No, it's got a Vital sign. You know Mark
the
Brown was trying to buy it.
The 8.96 acres. The 8.96 acres in the kudzu there.
Yeah.
Coming close to the bridge.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
By the furniture place?
well,
Before you get
I know exactly.
He had put because right now how much land you on right now? Not even an acre, are you?
No.
And how much is Public Works on right now?
About 4 acres.
So eight.
Well, you count both sides. You got six acres of property at least.
But 8 a whole all of them, right? Even if we got to go up some. 8.
Yeah, we need a lot of. If we replace our pole and transformer stock area, we need about an 8 acres to ourselves.
Well, we might have to put you. We got Vital product.
Okay.
You can't come on Global
And
Gateway.
you got your big warehouse. I mean,
you got the
Forest
big
Park.
warehouse.
Well,
Hugh.
we kind of want to like to give that one up.
I'm trying to get you somewhere to go.
What would we do?
Okay, talk.
All right.
So you're considering moving that whole? You guys moving out of there when Moody's builds?
It's part of the 6 West. You can't do 6 West unless you relocate.
I know Moody's. Listen to me. Moody's is moving into Forest Parkway.
Right.
You has the warehouse there.
Right.
You was talking about. I never heard this, but you talking about bringing the big warehouse out of there.
Right.
Oh, no, we weren't saying that. No, we weren't saying that.
Well, hold on. He is saying that.
But I'm saying I'm not saying that.
Okay. Well, I want to know why. Tell me why you. I mean.
Well, it's out of town. I mean, it's a long haul.
It's a long drive.
It's storage.
Yeah.
But it's storage.
Well,
Send somebody down there to
it'd
get
be
it.
better if we're gonna build anything new. It'd be better if we had everything in one place.
It'd be nice. Now, Public Works is unreasonable out there because their trucks are so slow moving, and you'd have so many miles. You'd have to up your gasoline.
And you can't keep up with them either. You can barely keep up with them over there.
Yeah.
Can you just make a workshop at Vital?
All right.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. Yeah.
Any questions on page 1 of customer service?
Customer service.
So William is same as always, that the customer's always right. Even if they're wrong, they're always right.
You got any openings?
Nope, we have, on May 19th, we have a position being filled, our customer service analyst. And then we have a position, that we'll start interviewing next week, the cashier. Once we fill those, we're fully staffed.
Other questions on page 1?
Now you're under finance, right?
Administratively,
Can you make sure you should pull your,
Is that working for you?
it was on, just make sure you're close
Is that
enough to
working
it.
for you?
I think so. I'm not having any issues at the moment.
So far.
Okay.
Don't jinx it.
Okay.
Moving on to page 2. On to page 3.
Oh, I have a question on page 2
Okay.
on I want to say consultant, right? Is that
Contractual, or which one
consultant 50? And I'm getting my money back for these guys.
Yeah, it's contractual.
Yeah, it's
6170.
Contractual is what I have a question.
Okay,
on.
ask your question. Ask your question.
My question is contractual services 526170.
Okay. Yeah.
In 2024, we expended $175,478. We only budgeted $75,000, but we're at $116,000.
Yeah.
But you mean,
You're not.
Excuse me. Okay, let me say it all over again. Thank you. Okay. All right, line 526170 contractual services spent $175,478 in 2024, budgeted $75,000 in 25, but right now we're not, still got a few months left in the year. You're at 116,000. So I guess we're 155%. But then in 2025, 26, you're asking for 75 again. What happened in 2025 with contractual services that makes you think you can do it for 75,000?
the statement I just made before, when we get the analysts in and we get the cashier hired, we'll be fully staffed. We're hoping to, if we can continue the trend, we kept a lot of staff this year. We didn't have as much turnover as we had in the past. So if we can continue that trend, we won't have to lean as heavily on.
So these are temps.
Okay.
Yes, temps, Robert Half.
Okay, so that's
Robert, yeah.
Robert. Yeah,
Robert
we
Howard,
understand how that works. So just wanted to, and not that I'm, I can, the 116, because I saw that you did spend it in the prior year, but just wondering what will be different this year, is that.
We're hoping not to have to lean as heavily on that.
Okay.
And I have,
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
I have a question for you that I had for AB. I noticed you managing a lot of tasks. Who's assisting you?
We, and I want to thank Mayor and Council, the city, Hugh, Terry. Pretty much anytime we need resources, you guys provide for them. We asked for the analyst position. You all gave us that last year. They're going to work with IT to assist us to make sure our technical concerns are addressed quickly. And if we get everybody, the analyst and the cashier, we should be.
Well, let me ask the question another
Yes, sir.
way. I observe you
Yes, sir.
doing one-on-one customer service, but then you also in charge of your. So my question is, how are you continue to manage one-on-one customer service and still do your other duties?
You all provided me with the budget collection manager, Lisa Keels, who does a tremendous job. You all provided me with the customer service supervisor who manages the call center and the cashier. And under them, we have a level of team leads that work under them and support them. And then we have the individual employees that kind of do the daily work.
You need to let him talk to all the departments and give us that answer. He don't need nobody, and he eloquently stated that.
Well, the last 2 years, we worked on succession plan for the whole city. So we really took that and ran with it and tried to structure the department for that.
You need to brand that.
It's important.
And to add to what Scott, we've come a long way. You
I
know,
know, we
from
know.
from January when I started, we've come a long way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions on page 2? Moving to page 3.
I have a question in reference to bad debt. I know that we had talked at some point in time in the past about utilizing a service or a service provider to help with that. How is that going?
The company is called Municipal. I forget the name, services, and they have done I think a really good job helping us with collections. We definitely see the benefit of customers currently that's indebted from 45 to 90 days, but we also see previous tenants that they're going after. They don't go after as aggressively for the longer debt customers, but we do see them as they get time to go after them, and we see collections from 5, 6, 7 years back being collected from.
Thank you.
When, Mr. Jackson, do we write off bad debt? I know we carry year to year to year.
So that's a great question. The auditors have made a recommendation that we put together like a formula as far as to use moving forward to calculate what our bad debt reserve should be.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 3? Moving on to the transaction report. Any questions on that? That is 3 pages.
Mayor, isn't tax not part of this? Custom service tax?
No,
Philip
sir.
Matana.
No, sir.
Who he's under? He's when you report.
Any questions on the org chart or the supporting documentation?
I do have a question, just a general question. I wasn't paying attention, but with all of the new development coming online, is that projection in here with all of the new all the development that's coming online? Is that power revenue projected?
Revenue, no. Expenses, yeah.
Yeah. So like the departments y'all just talked about, what's it called?
Summersby.
Summersby.
You got upwards of possibly 150 more units.
Yeah, you got apartments coming on garbage.
Blue light,
So I've
blue
got-
sky,
Blue sky.
That's
So-
150.
So I have Summersby, which came
Yeah,
online,
it's already
last
online.
year? And then Blue Sky is,
That's 185.
185 units coming online.
The Summersby is another 150 potentially.
So from the
within
budget
phase
perspective,
two.
Right.
And you got Hawthorne Station, another 150 additional in phase 2. And then you got the Creed project, 250 additional.
so is that only in the, only in the fund balance? That's not in this? How do you project that in our books? I don't see a line item for those potential, cause you show your power sales that you haven't got yet.
In our capital improvement, I had some of those in there.
He's got blue light in there in terms of, they have to put in the infrastructure for
Right.
blue light
Right.
for Hawthorne phase 2 for.
But where does he show his, only in actual cash?
Yes, that would be where it is reflected of.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
It's all cash.
Yeah.
In his budget.
Yes.
So all the things that's coming online is in your budget. Not
far
this,
as-
not
The
this.
expenses.
As far as electric.
Not expenses. I said revenue.
He doesn't show it.
I've been accounting for your revenue there.
Who show it?
It don't exist.
Nobody.
It
You
comes
can't
online.
show some dollars on that.
But you projecting other stuff that don't exist against
Well,
against.
we know it's coming.
I mean, throughout this budget, you've got projections on money that you've not received. So why aren't you not showing that?
I think it's just a conservative, estimate as far as when blue sky comes on, all that, I mean, that could take another year.
And the rates, we don't know what the rates will be anyway. The rates will be-
Blue Sky's not gonna be online till what, 26?
Like,
The end of,
should-
the end of
It
26
should, it should be the
Right.
27
No,
budget.
So just for future budgets, no anticipated revenue is reported, not in accrual basis or the cash basis.
We've never done that.
Yeah, pretty much we take the 6 months of like residential, already happened, multiply it times 2. That's how we don't show any increase, and if the increase comes, it's great.
So what you just said, your formula is what?
6 months, the 6 months, that's passed, we take the revenue, multiply it times 2.
Oh,
And
you
that's
use
what
the
we-
actual revenue.
Yeah,
multiplied
I mean,
by
I think
two.
that,
All right, that works.
because I mean, essentially, I mean, for a place like the Hawthorne Station coming online, we know we're going to do that capital outlay, but at the same time, we don't know how quickly those homes are going to sell.
Right.
So,
And as that happens, we can.
So during the budget adjustment period, that's when we can adjust any revenues that he got in?
Yeah.
Okay.
questions on meter reading, page 1.
Corn had a question about this.
Right, so with the salaries I'd like them to get an increase. Most of the fire department linemen got a 21% increase, something like that, about a year and a half ago. Yeah. And those.
Councilmember, your microphone is not on.
They got an increase, the linemen, and those three fellas technically weren't in the linemen's category in terms of, their particular job descriptions, but they had additional duties, is that right, William? In addition to what they started out doing. So I thought that in itself was deserving of kind of the same raise commensurate with the 20% that the rest of the guys got. So I'd like to see them get a raise, and a lot of them have been around longer than some of your linemen. So I'd like to see them get a 20%, because his whole department got it outside of other departments, because they were statistically below everyone else in terms of linemen. So
You have a number?
The lineman got it, right? I mean,
The
not the
lineman
whole,
got it.
not the whole department. Did your
Right,
whole
the lineman
department?
got it.
The lineman in your department got it, right?
but these
Because
guys were
we,
getting equivalent to that. So I wanted to see them get a 20% raise wherever they are now. These are the three fellas that are
The 3 meter readers,
the 3 meter readers.
20%, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, I have an accounting
I
question.
agree.
I have an accounting question. Why do we expense utility credits when it's our utility? How does that work? Because you got it as an expense, but how do you go back and back that out of our utility costs?
I think the reason it's done that way is to split and spend across the department.
But it's not an actual amount.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a placeholder. But I will always wonder how you balance it, how you know that work. I mean, you got, for example, let's say you could somehow figure out how much usage goes for employee credits versus how much we pay to buy it. You just throw this number out there, or does it balance off anything? Where does it balance off at itself out at?
I mean, I just see it as a negative revenue, I guess, in a way, but,
A negative revenue. Okay.
yeah, I guess in a way, the bottom line is each department gets,
Here, your
yeah,
mic.
I'm sorry. So each department has, that expense, so they pay for it, so basically it's they're reimbursing us for.
Well, let me ask
Credit.
the question the other way. if you took that line item out our budgets, how does that affect balancing our budget?
Well, expenses would go down.
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
that's about it.
So it's an arbitrary number that you really don't know the value.
You're talking about utility credits or just?
Utility credit for employees. It's expressed throughout the
I
budget.
got it. But also departments, we charge them an electric, the GICC has an electric bill.
Right.
But obviously it's out of this pocket of ours into this pocket. So but they have an electric bill.
But that's for usage, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is for usage.
They got a meter.
Allocation and usage.
They got a meter. I'm talking about versus a arbitrary credit that you put in a budget book.
No, it's not an arbitrary credit. I apologize. William Scott, customer service. It's not an arbitrary credit. So you get, we measure your meter each month, and we know you use, I'm just using an arbitrary number, $200. And that $200 goes against whatever your credit is. And if you use all of your credit, then we know that's the number that we use for the expense. But if there's anything left over, we use up to whatever you use. That's whatever's on the credit. We take the whatever's left over and we take that back, and that doesn't get credited.
All right, so since you got technical, then I ask this question. Give us an approximation at the end of this budget on how much usage the employee credits is. Okay. Fair?
In kilowatts or dollars?
However.
Dollars.
No, kilowatts. You just said you look at our meter.
Yes.
Yeah, both.
Both. I want to know if that's the case, then how much kilowatts are they using for you to justify that 200 credit? If that's the case, they may not be using 200. They might be using 1 kilowatt. I just want to know if we can find ways to change our fund balance.
I'm sorry to go back.
You could, it's not on.
Okay, I'm sorry to go back, but something just popped out at me when we were looking at the detail on page 2 of 3, 2 of 3. When we're looking at the detail, looking. Yes, customer service.
I'm going back to customer.
I'm sorry. But back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about subscriptions and Canva came up. I see that there is a subscription for Chat GPT. And
Yes, ma'am.
and so you see it? I'm on page
She's looking at the transaction.
page 2 of 3.
2 of 3.
Yeah. And so I don't remember whether or not if I saw this on any other budget. However, is this a professional? This is obviously a professional subscription, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible that we all can use that subscription? Is it enterprise?
With the AI, I started this with Althea when we started using it together.
Yeah.
But then we realized the AI is more productive if it's just catered to you. Your learning, your habits, your thinking, your colloquialism, how you communicate, and then that's when we decided to break it off. She got a separate account, and I got a separate account.
Okay, maybe I'm like the councilman here. I think I'm asking it differently, or I'm trying to get to a different answer. We have Office 365, right? And with Office 365, it has Copilot, and which is an enterprise application, which means that you would get Copilot, so on and so forth. Is the Chat GP? It's not. This is an individual license.
They offer that particular service, but in finance, the 3 of us basically were the only users, and we all had our own.
So they do have an enterprise.
She's not sure.
Yeah. No. I'm saying that they do. So if we could look at, because I brought this to Mr. Hicks' attention some time ago about subscriptions, right? It's like this would be a perfect example of how we could take advantage of having an enterprise level, and everyone could have their own individualized account, but we would pay one price and not multiple prices.
Well, some of them, I don't know if Chat GBT are individual licenses or not individuals. Now, Microsoft Office, the suites, the whole nine, you have to buy an individual license for each computer. So the question is, are there 3 individual licenses, or is everyone using one license?
It's 3 individual
Licenses.
Yes.
Right, that's what I was just saying a few minutes ago, right. So they have enterprise level.
Where everybody can use it.
Well, everyone will use it, but it will still be your own, because as they just mentioned, that the AI learns based on you, right? Each individual. However, at the enterprise level, we can then allocate licenses to each, right?
Individual.
Exactly.
Rather than they coming and saying you got to
exactly. Instead of I'm paying, you paying, you're paying, right?
If that's the case, you might want to do that for our storage.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
iCloud storage.
The iCloud, like all of those things, we should start looking at, and that's, I think I brought that up before last year.
And Mike is looking into that.
Okay.
And he said he would train. Once he finalizes the AI,
right,
he will train, all the staff on the AI. He's looking into that.
Well, have Mike to find out what enterprise software is individual licenses or bulk licenses, that if there's an option.
And just do a set for all. All, and then encompass everybody.
Any other questions in meter reading? Any question on the transaction report?
And so, Jackson, we got the increase for the 3 meter readers. We're gonna put that in the budget, right?
Yes, 20%.
So, Mr. Richardson, so that would mean your lineman would get an increase. I mean, your lineman got an increase. The metered readers would get an increase. There are other folks in your department that would not have received an increase, correct? Of that magnitude.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But that's only because the linemen and the meter readers didn't get the increase when we gave the other ones increase.
They were below market.
And we didn't adjust all your 3 guys on the same. So it's not like we adding. You get my point?
I understand.
I actually don't get your point, because I'm concerned that even sort of having this conversation, we will probably get feedback going into the community from our staff members saying these 3 individuals, and I am not saying that they are not deserving of it, but just that we will hear.
The thing
we've got 3 individuals, and then what about me, or what about this department, or what about these particular individuals? And so that's my concern.
I agree with you, because that is a real concern. But I thought it was because the 3.
Councilmember, can you move your microphone up?
I thought it was his initiative. I thought it was because the 3 meter readers was not given the increase when we did it across the board.
Exactly.
That's what I thought he was saying.
And they've gotten, the reasoning is because they did not get it. They weren't in the lineman's position.
You mean meter reader position?
The meter readers were not in the lineman's classification, so they didn't get the raise.
And
I assume they had gotten it, but they have an increase in duties that they've had over the last 8-9 years that they've been taking on with no increase.
And when we gave it across the board, they didn't get it.
Right. Other departments haven't been, 30% increase in duties.
And the other 3 linemen didn't get an increase equitably.
Yeah, everybody got the same, so it was still.
But they were already not at the balanced level.
Right.
It raised them up, but it raised them up unequally.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Favor not fair, Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Favor isn't fair. Favor. That's a term that it just can't help everybody. You can help who you can. But there's some other employees that when we get to the budget, we need to talk about.
Yeah, that's my soapbox. Oh, sorry, Councilwoman.
And I was going to ask too that, we talked about we talked about salaries last year, and we talked about, getting a study or something like that. I would like for us to see if we can this year at least put in the budget to have like Carl Vinson or someone like that to come out and do a study. Of course, we're going. Well, I'm speaking for myself. I would like for us to do some raises this year, but I also want us to do a salary study because even with the raises that we do, we're still going to have some pockets of positions where we probably need to do something a little more significant.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add. Yeah, I'd like to add. That's my thought. My thing is,
We've
say
already
we're gonna
start-
do something, but we don't put a timeline.
What we started the process of what?
But we did a study, by the way.
We did one a few years ago.
It was it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was before Councilman Arnold. And
But I mean-
it was in 2022 or 2023.
But I'm saying a lot of that still applies today. I mean, why don't we start by reading the previous study and understanding what? I mean, it's okay to do a study. I'm all for that. But we used to have a term around here years ago. It's called the closet of shame. We used to do nothing but, you remember that? All we did was study. It's time we start applying some of the studies that we do. Even with those comprehend, we don't even apply what we studied.
Well, Councilmember, I think in this case, though, we have seen some pretty significant inflation since that study was completed.
I don't disagree, but before we do it, why don't we ask the consultants, how much can we use the previous study? What does that help us with in trying to understand a new study? So that we don't just do a study across the board. There may be some areas we need to focus more on. I don't know.
I'd like to say that, yeah, I see both approaches. I hear what Councilman Gay is saying, so I think we need to look at what we already have, and we need to make sure our employees at that standard we got a report. Did we ever implement it?
We did.
So that's number one, because I'm sure that we're going to find that even some of them, and then I think in cases you may have had a mid-salary range, an upper salary range, and now it's 2 years later. So if somebody's still at the starting salary, there's a problem there.
But we got a report and we got a recommendation, but we didn't have the options. We went with a skewed option.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. So to do that, but then also at the same time, implement a new study that can, because I mean, again, we still, even if we get a new study and we're still so far behind, I doubt that we would get our employees to whatever the new level is. So at least if we have something to start with, because my thing is, if I'm telling you, a living wage, I have talked to employees in this city who have been homeless, and they are in really nice positions, but they have been homeless because they cannot afford to pay their bills. And that is not acceptable for us being a municipality. We've got to get, so my concern is also getting the salaries that are on the lower end. You know, I'm looking at these numbers and it shows what people's salary will be with a 3% increase, a 5% increase. Fine and good. But if a 3% increase, I'm still way under $50,000, and I'm working full time, and I'm married, and I have 3 children. I am not making a livable wage in the state of Georgia, and so that's all I'm saying.
The original study that we did a couple of years ago, it came from me complaining about the low end of the wages and how low we were. Eventually, your 2 predecessors agreed, let's do a pay study. The problem is the pay study was skewed. There were 3 options, and our former HR director had the option that skewed for those folks that made 55 and over, where it was leaning towards those, as opposed to the purpose of it. What I'd asked for was for our low-end employees that were not getting the pay salaries that they were supposed to get, and that increase gave them very, 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 very little, whereas on the higher end, it was designed for upper salaries, upper admin, upper management type studies. So we apply something, we want to do something, and then we don't act on it correctly, or someone steers it in the wrong direction. Our comp plan, like we read about it said we're going to look out for our low income areas, this, that, and the other, all this stuff. I remember when we came up with that comp plan, the problem is Your two predecessors, they didn't do anything for the low income, and it did not help, and they didn't put into action in terms of a budget what we said we were gonna do with the comp plan. This last budget, community enhancements, that stuff solidified the promise of that comp study. So you can put a paper together. We're gonna look out for the underprivileged. We're gonna work on the blight. It's on
No,
paper,
I get
but
it.
there was no, but they weren't gonna vote to do those real actions that we've been doing.
Can I
for the
just
past
add
year
something?
and a half.
Can I,
So I
hold on.
wanted
Can I
to-
want to add something because I think that we keep on coming back to this comp study, and I'm happy to share it with everyone. I disagree with Councilmember Carnes' assessment of it because I think that we actually did have those three options. We had those conversations, and there was some misunderstanding about reading the actual study, but we had three concrete options, and there were some concerns about the actual cost of it. But if you actually looked, we drilled down on every single employee, and I think that we should do the same thing moving forward. I don't know about the usefulness of starting off from where we were simply because of the fact that we have made adjustments to some people, but not everyone. The impact of inflation. And I don't think it's productive to, I would also push back on the characterization of folks who were in the seats prior. I think generally speaking, that we've all got our interests in the city, and I think that I did not find that any of my current colleagues or my prior colleagues cared less about College Park. And so I just don't think that that's necessarily productive. And I'm happy to share that evergreen study with the entire body. I can pull it up. And I don't think that it's also productive to sit around and drag other HR folk who were here before, because I don't find that Dr. Baker was steering us in a particular direction. If that's your feeling, I understand it, but I don't think that was representative of the entire body.
Well, we were being steered, and we were recommended one option without having the full assessment of the other options. And
we had the assessment.
I'm talking now. I'll let you talk. I understand everything that you're saying, but I can tell you this: at the end of the day, it was skewed to our upper and higher paid employees, and our lower paid employees would disagree with you. I can tell you that right now.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think categorically, and you can actually prove it. I'm still talking, and I'll be right with you, Councilmember Arnold, that that's just not factually correct. And I will go ahead and forward it to everyone right now. Councilmember Arnold.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
The only thing that I would like to ask for, Ms. Stewart, if you could please just add totals to the annual 25, 24, and 23. If we can see because I want to see the difference between 25 and a 3% and 25 and a 5%. Yeah, if you can just add the totals at the bottom, like you have the blue and the red, that would be helpful.
And City Manager, I need, are you through?
Yeah, and then I'll speak
And
after.
City Manager, speaking of that, I know that our salaries are set by legislation, but I think we've been misled. And let me tell you why. I could be wrong, but I think our charter only requires us to do council meetings. We don't get paid for any of these meetings you see us attending, right? We don't get any compensation. Now, I can't speak for my colleagues, but $15,000 a year salary for the amount of work we put in. Across the room is over $2 million worth of salaries, right? Over here is over $2 million. All of us bring value to this organization. We all have the same skill sets. So here's what I need us to do. When we went to the Jordan Speaks, we got to come up, guys. Those other cities were coming over there. We need to find out legally if we can get paid for all these extra meetings, all this extra expense in going to meetings. There just need to be more ways to compensate the elected officials aside from salaries. Jack Longino was smart enough to figure out, God rest his soul, that he the one who created he the one that created the utility credit for us. And it don't follow the same pattern that y'all follow. That has to be other legal ways to compensate us, because I can't speak for them. But this 8-9 hour days and all this stuff, we got to get paid for this. Y'all keep spending all this time about everybody else, but we got families too. Our families got to eat too. So don't give me this business about no legislative salary. Look at other ways that we can be compensated legally. And that's a lobbyist question.
Okay, I wanted to go back to the mayor mentioned an evergreen study. Mayor, could you please send that to us?
I'm pulling it up now.
Oh, could you send it to all of us? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not gonna sit around for this debate.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I think that would be helpful for us to see what. Okay,
And
what
right, I was
what
going
the
to
three
ask
options.
Okay,
Okay, bye-bye,
y'all can
Councilman.
talk about that for the next 2
So,
hours.
I mean, I think we're finished with you,
Okay.
but I would like to,
Yeah.
okay. So I think that would be helpful for us to at least to have something to look at.
Well, I wasn't even, you didn't even acknowledge that you heard me. You just started talking. You didn't even acknowledge, Counselor, I'm gonna look into that. I'm just talking to the wall. When I was talking just then, you didn't even acknowledge that you're gonna have the lobbyists look at that. You just started talking about evergreen.
Oh, I started talking about evergreen. I'm sorry, I'm the one.
Well, give him an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Opportunity to acknowledge it.
Well,
Look, here's my point. I don't want to sit here and make a valid point that y'all always get a value out after I argue and fight for it. The TPD, I fought for that. Now all y'all done spent it. So here again, I'm trying to bring value to each one of you all. Acknowledge it. Then talk about the evergreen study.
So thank you, Councilman Gay. And I did see them shaking their heads in agreement when you were saying to say to the lobbyists. So I think it was nonverbal communication. But I just, the point that I was saying is, thank you, Mayor, for sending us the evergreen study. Because I think what the point I'm saying is, if we have not made it to what the evergreen study said, then we have to start somewhere. And it's going to take time for a study, an additional study to be done, but these are people's lives. And this is, so in the meantime, in between time, as we're looking at increases in this budget cycle now, that we could look at how we can assist some of our people that are in the most need. That's all I'm asking. So that's my, suggestion.
Can I just add this point on the evergreen study? Because
ma'am.
it was done by individual and it was based on years of tenure and the like. So people who joined afterwards it's going to be a bit of there's going to be a little bit of friction there, but it's something. So
and that's fine. So, and like somebody that's started new, but we do have some people that have been with, and we found that last year when we were going through this process, we had employees that have been working for us for years, and they were not getting that step increase. And we did make the decision. We increased a few salaries during this time last year by even 20%. I think our city clerk was one of those persons as well that we looked at. And so just making sure, I think that'll give us some type of a foundation in this budget cycle. And then by the next budget cycle, hopefully we will be in a better place to implement some of the other things.
Councilmember Arnold, you've been extraordinarily patient.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Ms. Stewart, this, you can just send it to us electronically and we can save some trees. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So if there are no more questions,
I have a comment. I have a couple of comments. I want to thank Mr. Scott and you. You guys are phenomenal. You've been doing a great job. For everybody that came through today, we just have some amazing staff. Thank you, City Manager, for even the new staff that we brought on. We are really, I really see our city moving forward. And I gotta say to you, Mr. Richardson, that our electric company, our utility, we've had a lot of inclement weather. And you guys have really been on it. You keep us informed. And I think even amongst other cities, our city has been really rocking, because I've been to meetings and heard the horror stories, but we haven't had that in College Park. So I wanted to thank you all. And Miss Stewart, I wanted to just give our condolences to you. That's why I was asking if you were working, because we know that your sister passed over the weekend, and just wanted you to know that our prayers, our thoughts are with you as you travel to out of town. I'm going out of town myself, so I won't even be here for the next meeting, but I'll be on Zoom. And I just want to say to all persons that are listening, whatever you're going through, whatever trial, whatever tribulation, College Park cares. The purpose of this budget right now is to just make this city the best that it can be. And so we just appreciate all your time and everybody's effort. Just wanted to say thank you, and you're appreciated.
Amen. Thank y'all so much.
All right, so if we've got no further business, we are adjourned. We'll see everybody back on Thursday.